Hello, my beautiful blossom blooms and buds. It's Rosebud Reads and Welcome to my book garden. Actually, more like welcome to my plushy garden with books, but I'm enjoying it and I think they are adorable. It is the fourth live stream of the Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish, and I am having a great time. I do not own the Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish or anything attached to it, unfortunately. I'm not sponsored or anything like that. Hello, Cookielicious. How you doing today? Have you been having a good week? Where was I? This is a chill stream. I will be chatting with the chat. I will be making side comments. If that's not your thing, well, maybe stick around. You might have fun. Who knows? If not, it's all good. Hello, Mars Rover. How are you doing today? Hopefully the week's been treating you well. For both of you, anything exciting happen? I know today I got a little crafty and I made a little Liu. I ran out of gray, so we have some white instead. That was supposed to be gray, but I did my best. So I'm glad you've had a pretty good week. Also, if either of you have any weekend plans or anything like that, I'm doing good. I'm feeling better, even better than before. Figured out what was going on and been eating good, healthy food and stuff and resting a little bit. So I'm better. Thank you for asking. I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting anything. Thank you, Mars Rover. I'm really glad I'm recovering well too. I've got game night this weekend where I go and play board games with friends, and it's nice when I feel healthy to go do that. And then the weekend after, I've got a con I'm going to. So this week was productive. I've been working. Finally, I can get some rest and read Yuwu. Oh, have fun with that, Cookielicious. That one's a very interesting one, but it hits you in the feels. So have fun with it. But yeah, I'm trying to think. Oh, another thing I did. I have an Asian market near my house, and I like to go in and look and see what I can find. And I hit the jackpot today. I found my boys. And at the bottom, it actually says like Lan Zhan and Wei Ying instead of like Wei Wuxian and Lan Wanji. So, oh, you also have a game night planned this weekend, Mars Rover? That's awesome. No, it's so much fun. We try to meet up at least once a month. Wangxian, yes. You know, it's my favorite. No, have a fun time with that. Hope you win at least one of the games. But even if you don't, I hope you have a great time. No. So that's just some of the little things that have been going on with me. Nothing too crazy. So the games we usually play are Lords of Waterdeep, which is actually made by the same people that do D&D, Lords of the Coast. Or Wizards of the Coast. I was like, that's not right. It's really cool. It's kind of a board builder a little bit, where you buy panels and you could use the panels, but you're different lords of the city, and you have different cards like Skullduggery or Penance or like War, basically. And your lord, which is hidden, has certain challenges that get you points at the end of the game, get you 4 points at the end of the game. So to win, basically you want to have the most. But you can do this either by completing like the cards that you pick up or having a certain number of the same cards or a combo of both, but you gain different victory points through that. So that one's a lot of fun. I also have a game which is basically like Settlers of Catan, but it's like sushi. You are creating sushi instead of building towns. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It was like one of those I found at a convention that someone was just doing, like, hey, I made this game, come buy it. It is cute. I much prefer playing that rather than Settlers of Catan, partially because it's cute and you're like working towards building different kinds of sushi, which I think is really amusing. But so there's that. We'll probably play Legacy, not if one of our friends comes over, because we have a Legacy Risk game going. If they're not there, we don't play it. We're almost done with the Legacy board. I have one that's like Betrayal on the Hill, which is one I bought recently, which is okay. One of my friends inevitably kind of keeps getting the traitor role in that one, which is kind of funny. So that one can either be a quick game or go on for hours. So we're kind of doing a break from that one. And then I think it's called Legendary. It's a card game, like the Marvel Legendary. And it's pretty fun. We usually play at least one round of that. Sometimes Pandemic, which you try to stop the spread of 4 different kinds of outbreaks. And usually we get at least a couple cured. We don't usually win that one. But yeah. Hello, Peacock Pages. How are you doing today? Anything fun planned? So yeah, what do you usually play, Mo Mars Rover? I'm trying to think if I do anything else. There's also like Sushi Go, which is another one that's kind of a deck building. Nice. Yes. Yeah, they do. I agree. Yeah. Oh, the Goose Game is always fun. That one's pretty funny. Trying to think of like what other games we've played. There's a game called Zombies, which is kind of repetitive. It's Abzu. The controls are weird. I haven't heard of that one. I'm gonna write it down here. Abzu. Oh, that looks cool. That looks really pretty. Nice. I have a thing about water though. Like that whole like oh, I haven't heard of cribbage in a long time. Clue is also a lot of fun though. I like that. We play Ticket to Ride is also fun. We like playing that. There's oh my gosh. It kind of reminds me of a really old game called Train Baron. And it basically is like Ticket to Ride, but with actual, like, full train maps, and it's much more complicated. Yeah. Yeah, no, of course, knowing Meat Bun and all that. No, I hope this list of suggestions, like, board games are so expensive. So I definitely, if you're buying a new game to play with other people, I could not recommend Lords of Waterdeep more. It's so much fun. And it's relatively easy to pick up. And it has an expansion, but you don't need it to have fun. But yeah. Does anyone else have some fun stuff going on in their life or that they're looking forward to? I don't think other than those two things, the game night and the small con I'm going to with a friend a week after, I don't really think there's much else going on in my life. Ooh, that's fun. Just to visit people or just because, like, usually when I travel, it's to go see family, which is, that's perfectly fine. I have fun. But I'm just curious. Well, no matter what, I hope you have a great time and a safe drive or flight or however which way you get there. I hope you get there safely. Well, that'll be my dog. We have the door open right now because it's finally human levels. Oh, a fledgling eagle. Yeah, they are pretty puffy when they're young. That's adorable. And that's exciting. I saw a blue jay feather just a few days ago. I think you'll definitely enjoy Yu if you like reading angst. You will enjoy it. And it does sound adorable. I agree. Let's see. What time? I'm trying to set little time stamps on the pages just because, like, sometimes people don't want the chatting. I enjoy the chatting. A very high body count, I agree. But yeah, that's about 12 minutes. That's all good. So I guess we'll just go ahead and get started. Yeah. Yeah, I believe it, Truffle. There are some very frustrating or saddening parts with meat bun books, so I get it. So last time we had Liu kind of recognize Prince Jing's cousin as being one of these unfortunate, kind of tragic side characters, and is kind of just like, this guy seems nice, like he's actually a friend of Prince Jing. I'd kind of really like to save him. And then we get our lovely system coming in with, user, you've met the prerequisites for the side quest Impenetrable Defense. Impenetrable Defense. Would you like to begin? What side quest? Said Liu. How come I can activate it even though I haven't done anything? It activates when the user is willing to save cannon fodder characters from the book without anything in return. Liu laughed. So Ye-shizi was also cannon fodder. But with Ye-shizi's qualities, he was probably still the most eye-catching cannon fodder. Well, he's got the same genes, so of course. It would be best if the side quest was considered completed after people were saved. If it was anything like Clear Bright Pearl, he'd lose his mind. Liu still had to worry over the intimate contact mission, though. He asked cautiously. He really is. Yi Xing Xiao. Yi Xing Xiao. Yi Qing Chu is adorable. Like that Liu sees all the people in the book as people right away instead of just characters. It's a really good character trait of his with that, because a lot of times we don't see that. I agree, Momar's Rover. Xing Chu. And the rewards? Let's hear it. The system guided Liu to look at the Impenetrable Defense mission. The mission itself was quite detailed. As long as he protected the person he wanted to save in the given time period and prevented their death, the side quest would be completed. It was right in line with what he wanted to do, and he liked the title, Impenetrable Defense. It meant that as long as he was able to protect and guard the person well, he was like a metal wall. And the rewards? Liu asked. The user can choose from these rewards once the mission is completed. The system then started to list them off mechanically. Liu didn't really want to listen. Fine, I'll see what they are when the mission is completed instead. The fish scamming system's rewards were getting more and more fantastical. Well, even if there was no mission, he would still help Ye-shizi. The reward wasn't really important. Liu's plan was to deliver a letter to Ye-shizi that outlined the second prince's plan to frame him. Even if Yi Xinghuan didn't believe the letter, the house of Cheng'en might at least be alerted, and if they were somewhat already prepared, then it would be difficult for the second prince to harm him. Since Liu already had the skill that let him change into a human, he didn't have to worry about how he was going to write. But it wasn't until he was actually faced with writing the letter that he suddenly realized. In ancient times, people wrote in traditional characters. Liu could guess and read some traditional characters, but he wouldn't be able to write an entire letter with them. He'd suddenly become illiterate. Still, it wouldn't stop him. Since he could mostly read traditional characters, he just had to find a book with lots of words and copy it. There weren't many books in Prince Jing's bedroom, but there was a large study room that Liu hadn't been to yet. When Prince Jing planned to go to the study, Liu jumped onto his palm and grabbed onto his fingers, refusing to get off. Prince Jing glanced at him fondly. What in the world should I do with you, he thought. This fish had been getting bolder and bolder ever since it was given a name. Oh, well. Prince Jing might grumble, but he didn't hesitate at all to grab the flower petal bowl that the little carp often stayed in. Oh, that's right. So now he's Xiao Yu. That's his official name as a pet, is Xiao Yu, which means little fish. When he got to the study, Prince Jing placed the fish on the side as usual and brought over a set of books to read at the desk. The little carp was always very quiet when Prince Jing read in his own room, but this time, instead of being obediently silent as usual, Xiao Yu kept trying to stretch his head towards the book he was reading and flapped his tail vigorously. The angle's off. I can't see. Did Xiao Yu want to play again? Prince Jing was pretty easygoing with his fish, so he smiled and moved the tea bowl closer to him. Wang Shi had been informed that the fish was coming to the study, so he'd laid a couple of thick, water-absorbent blankets on the table in advance. Liu could finally see the book. As he watched, he took note of as many characters as he could that he might use while writing the letter. He planned to practice writing the characters when no one else was around. Prince Jing noticed that while reading that Xiao Yu's head was moving up and down consistently. He suddenly had the feeling that the fish could read. No, he definitely saw it wrong, right? Prince Jing put his book down and rubbed the spot between his eyebrows. He noticed that as he put the book down, the little carp slowly tipped forward in his tea bowl until he fell onto the page with a soft poof. Ah, thought Prince Jing. So he fell asleep. Liu despaired. How come I fell asleep? Okay, so that is where we left off on Tuesday. And this is kind of where we will begin our new part. So I kind of look forward to this. How is he going to do this? and not get caught. Chapter 24. Even the best laid plans. While Prince Jing was out, Liu took the opportunity to transform into a young man. This was the first time he'd used the transformation skill outside of the system's interface, and it was kind of overwhelming. But he had urgent matters to attend to. He suppressed his excitement as much as possible. After he transformed back into a human, he still didn't have any clothes to wear, but it wasn't a big deal. Liu nonchalantly took out a new set of underclothes and underwear from the closet, as if he had done this 1,000 times before. He didn't have long as a human, so he didn't have time to do anything else. For now, until he was able to properly write the letter to Yi Xinghuan, this was fine. Once he finished getting dressed, he found the cuffs of the robes were too long. He rolled them up, exposing his pale forearms. Scandalous. He carefully examined the things on the table. Prince Jing's brush and ink were all there, but he couldn't use them recklessly. If he left any traces for Prince Jing to find, all his efforts up to now would be for nothing. Liu thought back to how he'd watched the servants organize the room when he was bored. Based on those memories, he walked to the shelves and opened the drawer in the middle to find spare brushes and ink. He took out a brush, a stack of rice paper, and a half-used ink stick. In ancient times, the ink first had to be ground from an ink stick. Liu just lounging around in Prince Jing's underwear trying to study is a hilarious image. It really is Mars rover. It is. Oh yeah, well, we're still early. I reset the internet connection before I began this, but if some internet connectivity issues happen again, please just tell me in the chat. I will either text or run upstairs and reset it myself. So don't worry about it. It's all good. In ancient times, the ink first had to be ground from an ink stick. Liu had seen Prince Jing grind ink before, and it would be easy to replicate his motions. But the only inkstone he could find was the Duan inkstone on the desk, which belonged to Prince Jing. This chapter should have been titled "Fish Goes Back to School." Yeah, that's basically the vibe. There was no way he could use that. Besides, it was currently clean. It'd be too obvious if he used it. Liu pursed his lips and chose one of the tea bowls on the ground to use as an inkstone for the time being. Now, everything was ready. Liu positioned his 4 treasures of the study on a corner of the desk, poured some clear water into the bowl, and started to grind the ink. It's a terrible way to grind ink. You start with a little water, then grind it. He'd never done this before, and he wasn't sure when to stop grinding, so he just decided to stop when the water turned black and dipped his brush in the ink. Liu set his cheek on his palm, held the brush, and thought about how to phrase his message. He'd memorized a lot of characters from Prince Jing's book, but there were still some characters he didn't know how to write. Prince Jing's book was in a dictionary, and it was hard for a fish to sneak around and find the exact characters he wanted. Whatever. Even if he couldn't write a few characters clearly or got them wrong, it was fine as long as Ye-shizi got his message. Mind made up, Liu picked up his brush and started to write his letter. He wrote several drafts, one after another, revising the letter again and again. Once he had read it to himself and thought it looked all right, he copied that version. He waited for the ink to dry, then he folded it, made a simple envelope from another sheet of paper, and crammed it in. Now that the letter was done, all he had to do was give it to Yi Xinghuan. Liu stored the finished letter in his inventory to keep it safe. Then he wiped the brush clean and put it back where he originally found it, along with the ink and paper. He wiped down the desk he'd touched too. He couldn't just throw away the rough drafts, though. They had to be destroyed. Liu wavered between burning and eating the paper, but since paper tasted awful... Since when have you been eating paper, my dude? Like, you said that with confidence. But since paper tasted awful and he was afraid Prince Jing would notice something strange about his belly again, he lifted the lid of an incense burner in the room. By the time he'd disposed of everything, the fish scamming system started counting down his remaining time in human form. Liu took off all his clothes and hid them in the pile of clothes that Prince Jing had already worn. A servant would take them all away for cleaning later, so there would be no more traces left. He was so smart and resourceful, he thought, that he could become a spy. The image of Liu eating the paper while in Prince Jing's underwear is even funnier. Agreed. Very much agreed, Mo Mars Rover. When Prince Jing returned, Liu was sleeping soundly on his white stone bed. Prince Jing felt something was off the moment he stepped over the threshold, though everything looked just like how he had left it. Somehow, his subconsciousness just felt that there was something wrong. He looked at his fish first. Xiao Yu was lying quietly on the white stone bed. Right when Prince Jing was about to go over and check, the fish spit out a bubble. His fish was fine. Prince Jing walked around the room once, slowly, and finally figured out what was wrong. Something had been burned in his incense burner, but there wasn't the smell of incense. Prince Jing opened it up, but he couldn't find anything strange except for the ash scattered around the outside of the incense burner. Very peculiar. Prince Jing forbade others from entering and leaving his room unless necessary, so the servants of his residence would not do something like this. It looked like someone had come in and burned something in the incense burner, and very possibly did other things as well. Prince Jing called for Wang Shi and had him investigate thoroughly. Wang Shi immediately checked everything in the room. He quickly found that one of the writing brushes stored in a drawer had frayed and a stack of paper was missing, along with half an ink stick. Oh, goodness. That'd be expensive. Oh, buddy. Love the combination of overly observant, intelligent, and suspicious love interest in a main character who thinks they are so smart and sly, but is easily seen through. Yeah, it's very cute when it's like that. Peacock Pages. I agree. Prince Jing's face darkened. Had another thief appeared so soon, even though the last one hadn't been caught yet? The servant in charge of laundry was just about to take away Prince Jing's clothes for washing when Wang Shi, careful as ever, stopped him. He flipped through the clothes and his eyes lit up. Yeah. We agree, Truffle. It does really make the dynamic cute. Adorable. Your Highness, look! Wang Shi pulled out an inner robe from the pile of clothes. The sleeves of this garment were rolled up, and there was a number of ink stains on it. Prince Jing thought back to the past couple of days. He knew that he hadn't gotten ink on his inner robes recently, and there was no need for him to roll up the sleeves, since the garment fit him well. Inner robes again. Did the thief have something against his clothes? Probably not. Your Highness, this servant recalls the one that escaped by water last time, Wang Shi quietly reminded Prince Jing. Prince Jing nodded. He agreed that this was too great a coincidence. It was probably the same person. Since the thief wasn't caught last time, he came back again. But what exactly was his goal? A smile flashed in Prince Jing's thoughts. Secretly, he couldn't quite believe that the young man with such refreshing looks could be the thief who stole his clothes multiple times. And why did he steal his fish? Trying to express his anger over getting kicked out by the Dai wife was still a bit of a reach. Prince Jing felt sure that there must be some huge secret behind this young man. He just hadn't figured out what it was yet. But whatever the case, he wouldn't let the thief take away his fish anymore. Prince Jing secretly ordered Wang Shi to double the guards and increase the number of people looking for the thief. All the while, the little carp was still sound asleep, unaware that his actions had set off a chain of disturbances in Prince Jing's residence. He was originally sleeping facing the inside of the fish tank. When he turned over, he was met with Prince Jing's face. Right away, Prince Jing and Wang Shi noticed a long black mark on his body that hadn't been washed away by the water yet. Wang Shi, shocked, asked Prince Jing for directions. When he fished out Xiao Yu and wiped him down, he realized that the fish was covered in ink. Prince Jing was deeply perplexed. "Your Highness, look!" A servant hurried over with a tea bowl to ask for further instructions. For some reason, the cup was filled with ink instead of clear water. "Ink again?" thought Prince Jing. "Why ink?" The ink-stained garment Wang Shi found, the bowl filled with ink, a ruined brush, a used ink stick, the missing rice paper, and a disturbed incense burner. The mystery intruder had most likely used the cup as a grindstone in his room, used the brush and ink to write something, and burned something in the incense burner. And Xiao Yu. How could ink have gotten on him? Prince Jing wondered. Li Yu was still bleary-eyed when Wang Shi took him out of the fish tank, but when he realized that a servant had found the tea bowl with the ink and Prince Jing was examining the ink on his body, he jolted awake at once. Fuck. He was too careless. He didn't notice he'd gotten ink on his hands and wiped it on his body. He'd put the teacup down when he was done with it and forgotten to pour the ink out. The best laid plans of fishin' men often go awry. Prince Jing might even start suspecting him now. He couldn't be mistaken for a fish spirit. Liu immediately broke away from Wang Shi and doggedly jumped into the inky tea bowl, pretending to be excited like he really loved it, and dyed himself darker than a squid. Prince Jing had been splashed by the fish a number of times now, so he knew what was going to happen as soon as the fish lifted his tail. He raised his arm to cover himself, intercepting most of the ink splashes with his sleeve. Of course, his sleeves had still been stained quite badly. Wang Shi, beside him, wasn't so quick and gained a smattering of new ink spots on his face. You could try to make a yeet counter. I could make an attempt. Like, it's been at least, 4 at this point? This might be number 5. Because we have the consort, we have kind of yeeting himself out of the basket. So that's technically 1. So that's 2. We have... let's see. I'll think on it. But yes, we could maybe make up a yeet counter. Wang Shi tried to smile to smooth things over. At Prince Jing, etc. Yeah. So that's 3, 4. Splashing him with the cat. Which, I mean, technically it's a yeet. So 5. Master Fish is quite spirited, he said, wiping his face with his handkerchief. Prince Jing, expressionless, figured it was very obvious where the ink on the fish had come from. The fish clearly did it while he was playing around. Liu continued to act like a cute little squid in the face of Prince Jing's fish-targeted eye lasers. His fake image was hanging by a thread, but he'd managed to hold on. With the letter finished Now he had to figure out how to send it. Liu thought about waiting until the holidays and smuggling it into one of the gifts that the two manners exchanged. But it was difficult for a normal person to get near those gifts, and he couldn't guarantee that Yi Xinghuan would actually see the letter himself. He decided to try to make his move when Yi Xinghuan came to Prince Jing's residence instead. Luckily, since Ye-shizi's beloved dog couldn't measure up to a fish, Ye-shizi brought him over again soon. This time, Ye-shizi had brought a golden ball with him. He threw the golden ball as far away as possible, and Xiong Feng immediately ran after it and brought it back to him. This would have to shut Prince Jing up, he thought. No matter how smart a fish is, it's still not as good as a dog. Prince Jing gave Yi Xinghuan a pitying glance, then gestured at him to look in the fish tank. Ye-shizi took a look. At first, all he saw was a bunch of jewels, but soon he spotted Prince Jing's Xiao Yu swimming around casually, stacking the jewels sky high. Then he picked up an aquamarine with his tail and tossed it to knock over the stack of jewels. They're just trolling him at this point. Yeah, it really is funny that the two are competing over who has the cooler pet. And I appreciate that they're doing it in, like, a healthy way instead of, like, not causing harm. That Liu is actively participating in the competition. Yeah. Yeah. Prince Jing's fish could do tricks like that. Shizzy was so jealous that his eyeballs almost fell out of his head. He'd lost again. Xiong Fang, on the other hand, was immensely excited by this sight. He wagged his tail around wildly as if he was cheering the fish on. Liu swam over. He wasn't so afraid of Xiong Fang with a crystal wall between them, and he started boldly flapping his tail towards Xiong Fang, as if teasing him. Xiong Fang became even more lively, trotting in front of the crystal fish tank as if he wanted to jump in and play with the fish. Yeah, Liu is probably more invested than anyone. Yeah. It's like, my dignity as a fish is on the line. Watching the two of them was making Yi Xinghuan a little dizzy. Help! Wang Shi escorted him away to rest. But Xiong Fang stayed behind, looking at Xiao Yu expectantly. He reached his nose out several times, trying to sniff him, but was met with the cold crystal every time. He barked impatiently. Liu's eyes lit up. If it was just him and Xiong Fang, he could make use of this as an opportunity. Xiong Fang, become a messenger for your master. Ye-shizi had to rest a bit because of his dizziness. When he came back, his darling pet dog Xiong Fang's fur was half soaked, and he was holding a white envelope in his mouth, pawing at his legs. What's this? Shocked, Ye-shizi pulled the letter out of Xiong Fang's mouth. Chapter 25, Fish Eating Dessert. At first, Yi Xinghuan thought it was just a joke. He read the letter with a smile on his face. The letter was only a couple of lines long, but by the time he finished reading, Yi Xinghuan's expression had changed. Prince Jing treated Ye-shizi flippantly, but Ye-shizi was still his younger cousin. Naturally, he wanted to know what had shocked him to this extent. He glanced at Wang Shi. Wang Shi stepped forward and spoke for him. Ye-shizi, what's the matter? Yi Xinghuan looked like his soul had left his body, and it took a while before he returned to his senses. He passed the letter over and asked, Tianqi, do you know who wrote this letter? Wang Shi took the letter and handed it to Prince Jing without even reading it. But when Mu Tianqi skimmed through it, he was shocked. The writing on this letter was probably the most disjointed thing he'd ever seen in his life. There were only a couple of characters written correctly. Most of them were missing strokes, as crooked as if they'd been blown over by the wind. A 6 or 7-year-old child could do better than this. Ouch. Harsh. Not only were the characters ugly, but the letter spoke of an event that made one's blood run cold. The second prince intended to harm Yi Qinghuan by framing him for killing the princess of Jinju. The letter warned Yi Qinghuan to keep an eye on the second prince's actions, and more importantly, not to trust the sixth prince. The emperor only had 4 princes who'd come of age. Everyone knew that the sixth prince was the third prince's follower, that the second and third princes were butting heads. Meanwhile, Prince Jing didn't get along with any of them. This thin piece of paper mentioned 3 of the 4 princes, in addition to Yi Qinghuan, who was obviously related to Prince Jing. As Prince Jing realized this, his expression turned serious. The House of Chang'an was the former empress's family, so the emperor relied heavily on them, and their rich, stable future was pretty much guaranteed. The Dai princes born to the former empress had all either died young or been disabled. The House of Chang'an had no legitimate prince of their own, but their current status, there was no need for them to align themselves with any of the princes. The Duke rarely had any contact with the princes, as he wanted to avoid conflict as much as possible. But conflict would find them. The letter had been delivered through Xiang Fang. It was written extremely strangely, and its contents were even more unbelievable. Yi Qinghuan couldn't tell if it was real or not, and he had other misgivings as well. Was it perhaps a trap to trick the House of Chang'an? Mu Tianqi gave it some thought and coughed lightly. Yi Qinghuan lifted his head at the sound to see Prince Jing pinching a mark on one of the names of the letter. Yi Qinghuan could tell that Prince Jing was trying to bring his attention to the words, the Princess of Jinju. Yi Qinghuan paused. Are you asking why the Princess of Jingju? If it was anyone else, it might have been more believable, but the Princess of Jinju. Neither Prince Jing nor Yi Qinghuan had heard any recent news about Jinjue, and it was quite far from their own capital. They'd never even seen the princess, so why would the second prince kill someone like that and frame Ye-shizi for it? That was the dilemma. If the letter was just a trap to trick the House of Chang'an, there would be no need to involve a foreign princess. Thus, Prince Jing was much more inclined to believe, or at least partially believe, the letter. Prince Jing took a brush and paper and wrote, "Be prepared, just in case." Yi Qinghuan fell silent for a while, fully understanding what Prince Jing meant. It's better to believe it than to disbelieve it, he said. I'll have my people keep an eye on the second prince and the sixth prince. Let's see what they're going to do. And let's see what the person who wrote this letter wants. Thank you for your quick reminder. I probably would have had a headache over this for a while. Yi Qinghuan smiled candidly and patted Prince Jing's shoulder. Outsiders all said Prince Jing was withdrawn and didn't care about anything, but in actuality he was careful and perceptive. Yi Qinghuan's overly familiar action made Prince Jing furrow his brow slightly. All right, Yi Qinghuan said. Who do you think sent this letter? They even used Xue Shan Fei. So they must be familiar with my habits. Perhaps it's someone I'm close with? Yi Qinghuan's guess made sense. Prince Jing wanted to know who sent the letter too, but he had different thoughts. It's true that the letter was delivered through Qiang Fang, but it was also given while Ye-shizi was visiting Prince Jing's residence. It was simply someone who was familiar with Ye-shizi. Why would they do it right under Prince Jing's nose? Prince Jing was more inclined to believe that the person was already embedded in his residence somehow, and only used Ye-shizi's visit as an opportunity to give him the letter. The people and connections mentioned in the letter were complex and entangled. Taking another glance at the wild writing, many strokes were forked, yet each stroke was still forceful. With this type of writing style, the brush would have... A thought suddenly struck Prince Jing. He'd seen a frayed brush like this just a few days ago, in his own room. It must have been that young man. Prince Jing had guessed that he'd written something in his room. So was it the letter that Yi Qinghuan was now holding? Tianqi, what are you thinking about with such a serious expression? Yi Qinghuan put up 2 fingers and waved them in front of Prince Jing's eyes. He's brave right there. Prince Jing mercilessly slapped away this troublemaker's hand. Yi Qinghuan laughed. Are you thinking about who they are and what they are, or where they are? I have my own ways of locating whoever it is, but... Yi Qinghuan glanced at Prince Jing and stubbornly stopped right when it was getting juicy. Prince Jing looked impatiently at him, signaling with his eyes. Spit it out. Yi Qinghuan laughed and continued. I have my own ways of locating this person. If you want to find out who sent the letter, then answer a question of mine first. Yi Qinghuan felt he couldn't be any more resourceful for using this opportunity to get something out of Prince Jing. He smugly said, I heard you moved back here because you were attacked in the palace. I haven't been able to figure it out, but how did the assassin get into your room when Jingtai Palace, your own dwelling, is full of guards? Yi Qinghuan had been eager to gossip about this for a very long time. Everyone in the palace was trying to guess who sent the assassin, but Prince Jing had already killed her, and the imperial guards who searched the corpse found nothing useful either. There were 2 main theories in the palace. One was that noble consort Xue had a grudge against Prince Jing since the emperor punished her on his account. Even if the noble consort wasn't the one who ordered the assassination, people believed it had to do with her. The other theory was that someone else was framing noble consort Xue. She was the first person anyone would think of when an attempt was made on Prince Jing's life, after all. This was also part of why the second prince was so desperate to reconcile. Oh my goodness, I should not have had that much trouble with reconcile. Reconcile. Oh my god. With Prince Jing. Of course, he wanted to help noble consort Xue, but he was also afraid that the emperor would listen to the rumors flying around about the palace. As Prince Jing's younger cousin, Yi Qinghuan was naturally quite worried about him and wanted to know who was bold enough to make a move on him in the palace. The third prince was eager to try to compete with the second prince and had covertly allied himself with the second prince. We're going to just reread that because I messed it up. As Prince Jing's younger cousin, Yi Qinghuan was naturally quite worried about him and wanted to know who was bold enough to make a move on him in the palace. The third prince was eager to try to compete with the second prince and had covertly allied himself with the sixth prince. The princes were in a state of mutual hostility. So, if you tell me who exactly sent the assassin, then I'll find the person who wrote this letter, he declared. Why did Prince Jing kill the assassin instead of keeping her alive for questioning? Yi Qinghuan was sure he must know something and just didn't want to tell him. Prince Jing snorted coldly and glanced at Wang Shi, who covered his mouth and privately laughed before ordering the guards to grab Yi Qinghuan's collar. Tianqi, what are you doing? Yi Qinghuan was shocked. Wang Shi slowly said, Ye-shizi, have you forgotten? His Highness hates it when others try to negotiate with him, so why did you try? Fine. He was the idiot for thinking he could get anything out of Prince Jing. Wang Shi slowly said, no. Wang Shi ordered someone to lift Ye-shizi up and was about to throw him out when Yi Xinghuan made a last-ditch effort. Wait! If I'm chased out, who's going to find the person who sent the letter? That's enough, Ye-shizi, Wang Shi said cheerfully. His Highness wants me to ask you if you want to be kicked out or if you'd rather tell us. Come on, Ye-shizi, Yi Qinghuan complained half-heartedly. He decided not to be stubborn about it, though, and went ahead and revealed his plan. Which turned out to be Xiang Feng. Since the person who wrote the letter had Xiang Feng deliver it, Xiang Feng must have seen him. They would be able to find the person if Xiang Feng led the way. This method certainly had not occurred to Prince Jing. Yi Qinghuan untied the leash and jabbered away at Xiang Feng, asking for his help. It wasn't clear if Xiang Feng understood him or not, but when Ye-shizi was done speaking, Xiang Feng licked the center of his palm and turned to trot away. Yi Qinghuan said hurriedly, "Come on, he's going to find him." There's a little part of me that's like, how are you sure it's a him? Why has it got to be a him? But anyway. Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan glanced at each other and came to a mutual understanding, then trailed behind Xiang Feng. Earlier, when Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan were gone, Liu had turned into a human right away, frightened Xiang Feng into a barking frenzy. When he was in his human form, Liu wasn't afraid of Xiang Feng, but he had to feed the dog some red fish food to calm him down. Unexpectedly, Xiang Feng liked the fish food a lot. He stopped barking and even licked Liu's hand. After getting Xiang Feng under control, Liu took the letter out of his inventory and had Xiang Feng carry it in his mouth to send it over. I'd be worried about him slobbering on it and smudging the letter, so it was just like, "Hello, you need to look panic." But that's just me. At this point, the rescue mission was over half finished. The rest was up to Ye-shizi. It would have been better if he could have gone with Xiang Feng, but neither of the forms at his disposal would be any good for it. As a human, he would be chased off out of the manor, and as a fish, he probably wouldn't be able to catch up with the dog. So Liu had decided to stay where he was and wait for Xiang Feng after he delivered the letter. The transformation went smoothly this time, and there was a lot of time left before he needed to turn back into a fish. Liu didn't dare run around, though, so he just got dressed and sat in the room, staring in a daze at the soft pink peach blossom-shaped desserts on the table. That sounds amazing. Each one was shaped exactly like a peach blossom, and they were quite fragrant. Wang Shi said that it was a confection made by a chef from the palace. Prince Jing would sometimes have some. Since Wang Shi had put the pastry there himself, there shouldn't be any problems with it. Liu sat for a while, bored, and then set his sights on the pastries. The last time he transformed into a human, he was much too busy writing the letter to eat any human food. The time before that, he ate the food Auntie Shu gave him, but there were no desserts. Now that this plate of inviting pastries was right in front of him, Liu felt a craving. This was Prince Jing's dessert. It was normal for a pet to steal a little taste of his master's dessert. Right? The peach blossom pastries were neatly stacked into 3 layers, forming a tidy little mountain. There were 3 in the topmost layer, and Liu picked a larger one and took a bite. The pink-colored pastry was crispy and sweet, and it really did taste like peach blossoms. Liu was worried that his time was almost up, so he finished it quickly. But once he finished the first one, he wanted another, so he quickly grabbed a second piece and shoved it in his mouth. He didn't plan on eating too much, but now that he'd taken away 2 pieces, there was a gap, and the pastry mountain was imperfect. Liu gave it some thought, then took out 2 pastries from the bottom layer and rearranged the rest of the pastries. Now that layer was smaller, though, so he took another piece from the second layer and rearranged that one. As a result, the entire mountain shrank. Liu nodded, satisfied, and ate the excess peach flour pastries, stuffing his cheeks. Why does this remind me of if you give a mouse a cookie? If you give a fish a pastry. He was chomping enthusiastically on his dessert when there was a loud barking outside. Liu was happy at first. Was Xiang Fang returning after a successfully completed mission? Liu glanced out of the window to see Xiang Fang happily wagging his tail, running like the wind with Prince Jing and Ye-shizi in tow. Crap! Stupid Xiang Fang! He agreed to complete the mission alone! He promised not to betray him. Why did he lead these 2 over? He was caught in a dead end. Again! He does like his pastries. Yeah, that he does, Truffle. Whoops. Chapter 26, Bringing the Fish Everywhere. Liu could turn into a human for an hour at a time now. He'd turn back into a fish when his time was up, but before that, he was stuck in human form. It was impossible to cancel the transformation halfway through. The fish scamming system didn't give him a way to do it. Prince Jing was about to unknowingly trap him in a room again. This room was quite large, but there was nowhere to hide. Getting into the closet or hiding behind a curtain would be as good as asking for death. Liu stood up and ran to open the window inside. He seriously had to jump out of the window again. He remembered that he'd climbed through this window when he used the transformation medicine before, that it was close to the ornamental mountain outside. The path was familiar. Liu tried to open the window latch, but the same window that he'd opened so easily last time wouldn't budge. What was going on? He jiggled it twice, panicked, but the window didn't move. He suddenly realized that the window most likely couldn't be opened because it had been sealed. Oh, they're getting smart. There was no need to guess who did it, but when was it sealed and why hadn't he known about it? A cold sweat broke out on Liu's back. If the window didn't work, then he'd try the other ones. But he tried each one and found to his despair that none of them would open. He knew there were guards outside the door too, so he wouldn't be able to get out that way. Xiang Fang's barks were getting closer and closer. Liu raised his head. If Prince Jing caught him... Oh, forgetting envies. Hello, I checked out the Tong Fang, and it was so good. You're going to need to recommend more fics because we have the exact same taste. I will happily recommend some more fics. That is one of my absolute favorites that I go back to quite frequently. It's nice and short, but it's so well written. And I love the extra little end notes at the end of each chapter where it talks about the different characters. Welcome for getting MBs. Liu is about to get caught by Prince Jing and Ye-shizi because Xiang Fang just delivered his letter that he wrote warning Ye-shizi about the plots against him by the princes. And Now they had the smart idea to have the dog retrace his steps and lead them to the person that wrote it, and he still has time left on his transformation, so he's freaking out. So that is where we are now. But he tried each one and found to his despair that none of them would open. He knew there were guards outside the door too, so he wouldn't be able to get out that way. Xiang Fang's barks were getting closer and closer. Liu raised his head. If Prince Jing caught him... Prince Jing had been looking for him for such a long time. Would he kill him on the spot? Should he say, "Stop, master! I'm your pet fish"? It was hard to imagine how Prince Jing would react when he found out Liu was his pet fish. But if he just made up a random lie instead, it wouldn't be long before he was found out. If he ended up in Prince Jing's hands, they wouldn't need any special tricks to discover his secret. All they would have to do is wait for him to turn back into a fish. He still had one more step of the main quest to complete, but he'd been so focused on saving others that he didn't put more effort into getting intimately close with Prince Jing. If Prince Jing knew his real identity, it would be a miracle if he didn't kill him. He definitely wouldn't be allowed to do any more of his quests. Was there really nothing he could do? Sweat rolled down Liu's nose as his eyes frantically darted around, sweeping across every single object in the room. Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan followed closely behind the running Xiang Fang. Xiang Fang, about to run into the inner portion of the manor, looked like he was going to run straight into Prince Jing's room. Prince Jing was a bit thrown off. He'd already suspected that the young man who'd escaped before was the one who'd used Xiang Fang to deliver the letter. Could it be that the young man, even after his intense search, had not left the manor yet? Prince Jing recalled that the people he'd sent out had never returned with any useful information. At first, he'd thought this person was simply too crafty, but he'd left clues in his residence and his rooms over and over. Perhaps he wasn't thinking in the right direction. Perhaps the person never went far in the first place and had been hiding in the residence all this time, since the most dangerous place was also the safest. If Xiang Fang was on the right track and the thief was really hiding in his room, Prince Jing would make sure he couldn't escape this time. Xiang Fang was about to enter the room when he suddenly stopped and sniffed around. Yi Qinghuan came up and patted his beloved dog's head. "Why aren't you chasing him anymore?" Xiang Fang barked twice, then turned around to go towards the small bamboo forest outside the room, running to a person at the entrance. "Wrong way?" Prince Jing glanced at him suspiciously, hesitated, then followed Xiang Fang to the bamboo forest. Back in the room, Liu had been certain he was about to face a formidable opponent. "Oh, sup, scared the fish half to death." He didn't know why Xiang Fang had decided not to come over, but one thing was clear. Xiang Fang swerving in another direction had helped him out immensely. His transformation time was almost up. As long as he could turn back into a fish and get back in the fish tank, he wouldn't be found out. Xiang Fang ran up to the person in front of the bamboo forest and wagged his tail, expressing his friendliness. The person was dressed in white. He knelt down and affectionately patted Xiang Fang's head. Oh, there's a typo. They forgot the G in one of the Xiang Fangs. Haha, it's always fun finding those little things. Xiang Fang seemed to like him as he circled around him several times. Yi Qinghuan looked him up and down. He would have mistaken him for a woman at first glance, he thought, if he weren't wearing men's clothing. "Who are you?" The man bowed, neither overbearing nor self-effacing, and said, "If it pleases my lord, I am Chu Yanyu. I reside in the Xingshu Garden." Even they can't spell the Chinese names correctly. Yeah, sometimes. I mean, with the amount of time they have spelled Xiang Fang in this chapter alone, I don't blame them. It's a lot of syllables. I reside in the Xingshu garden. I was just passing by, but for some reason your dog bounded over. So your name is Chuyanyu. Xiang Fang seems to like you quite a bit. Yi Qinghuan smiled, but he didn't mean anything by it. He was normally kind to beautiful people. He wasn't attracted to men, but that didn't stop him from appreciating this great beauty's alluring face. However, Yi Qinghuan didn't quite believe Chu Yanyu's explanation. Cheng'an Manor was exceedingly large. What sort of tricks hadn't he seen? Xiang Fang rarely ever ran up to strangers, so Chu Yanyu had almost certainly done it on purpose somehow. Yi Qinghuan's frequent visits to Prince Jing's residence hadn't been for nothing either. He knew this courtyard was where Prince Jing put the prospective concubines that others had gifted him. It seemed like Chu Yanyu's origin was suspicious. He didn't think he'd run into something like this at Prince Jing's residence. Yi Qinghuan burst out laughing. This wasn't his residence, so he just had to watch the show. No need to overstep and intervene. It hadn't been long since the banquet in his residence, so Prince Jing recognized Chu Yanyu. His cold gaze fell on Chu Yanyu's hands. Chu Yanyu claimed he didn't know why Xiang Fang came towards him, but Prince Jing's eyes were sharp, and he'd already noticed that Chu Yanyu had hurriedly kicked a green leaf aside. The green juice on his fingertips had yet to be wiped off completely. Prince Jing's eyes darkened. There was no doubt that Chu Yanyu was lying. He deliberately used some trick to make Xiang Fang run over. Displeased, Prince Jing glanced towards Yi Qinghuan. Since Prince Jing and Ye-shizi had left in such a hurry earlier, Wang Shi hadn't caught up yet, so Yi Qinghuan, who'd suddenly become a mouthpiece, gaped uselessly. In the end, he just coughed lightly, pretending to not understand. I mean, he is his cousin. He's got to mess with him somehow. Prince Jing glared at him again, and Ye-shizi relented. He unwillingly asked, Chu Yanyu, why are you here? Chu Yanyu knelt in greeting, then raised his head and said, I heard His Highness and Ye-shizi were looking for one skilled in calligraphy. Please let me have a try. Ever since Chu Yanyu entered Prince Jing's manor, he had been staying in Xingshu Garden. Prince Jing's residence was heavily guarded, so it took the sixth prince great effort to deliver a letter to Chu Yanyu. In that letter, he'd asked him to capture Prince Jing so he could enlist the help of the House of Chang'an. Chu Yanyu truly wanted to help Mu Tianxiao, but he hadn't so much as seen Prince Jing since he got here. Everyone in Prince Jing's manor treated the residents of Xingshu Garden like outsiders, him included, and had their guard up with them at all times. If he wanted to give Mu Tianxiao a helping hand, he had to get out of Xingshu Garden first and gain Prince Jing's attention again. When Chu Yanyu entered the manor, the third prince had shoved a bunch of money on him to further secure his loyalty. Chu Yanyu had spent a lot of it to brought a patrolling guard outside Xingshu Garden. Okay, so here's Chu Yanyu and our prince, and there's him like, here, I'll bring it closer so you can see the faces. Like, it looks nice enough. Kind of has suspicious eyes. There's him wiping off his fingers. And clearly our boy is super skeptical and not super happy right now because he's like, dude, we were on a lead and you just busted it. So thanks. Thanks for that. He does. He has the sneaky anime eyes. The servants in Prince Jing's residence were extremely difficult to bribe, so the guard only agreed to pass along bits and pieces he heard, most of which were quite useless. This time, though, the guard told Xu Yanyu that Ye-shizi came to the residence with a dog, and that Prince Jing and Ye-shizi were looking for someone. It seemed to be someone good at calligraphy. The guard wasn't stationed where all this was happening, so he wasn't quite sure about the details. But after Chu Yanyu learned about this, he came up with a plan to run into Prince Jing using Ye-shizi's dog and recommend himself for the position. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Mars Rover. I was trying to think of like he's just got the suspicious face, but the sneaky anime eyes is a perfect way to put it. He was an avid reader and remembered reading about how dogs loved a certain leaf that gave off a fragrant scent. Someone in Xingshu Garden grew such plants, and Xu Yanyu managed to pick some. He then asked the guards to let him out of Xingshu Garden. It was, in fact, possible for those living in Xingshu Garden to go out for a walk, but they were not allowed to go too far and had to be accompanied by guards. The guard helped him for the sake of money and asked to follow him in person. Having attained his goal of leaving Xingshu Garden, Chu Yanyu took advantage of the guard's carelessness and slipped away. Well, I don't think he's going to be able to use that guard again. He'd heard the guard mention the general layout of Prince Jing's manor, so he tried his best to walk in a direction that would allow him to run into Prince Jing. From a distance, he could see Prince Jing and another man chasing a black dog. The guard must not have been lying. The young man had to be the heir to the house of Cheng'en, and the dog his favorite pet. Chu Yanyu suppressed his fear of dogs, crushed the leaf, and smeared the juice on his fingers. The dog was easily lured in, its nose as sensitive as ever. Of course he doesn't like dogs. Chu Yanyu had no role or name in Prince Jing's residence. He was just someone who had been sent in from the outside, so he wasn't even considered a servant and had no right to even call himself this lowly one. He'd used to follow the sixth prince, Mu Tianxiao, who he was close to, and Mu Tianxiao knew him he regarded himself highly, so he never asked Chu Yanyu to address himself with a lower title. Chu Yanyu did not consider himself of humble birth, so he awkwardly called himself I. It seemed refined and courteous, but it was actually extremely rude. If Wang Shi had heard him, he would have chewed him out, but Ye-shizi never cared much about the conceited customs. As for Prince Jing, he was on the cusp of rage, but not because of Chu Yanyu's form of address. Prince Jing was very displeased with Chu Yanyu for daring to divert and disrupt Xiang Fang from his original route. Chu Yanyu might as well have said, "I am the one you're looking for." Prince Jing stared at him for a moment and scoffed coldly. Chu Yanyu felt his confidence wavering under the glance. Because the sixth prince had asked him to seduce Prince Jing, Chu Yanyu told himself he had to capture his heart. Since Prince Jing was mute, however, he had no idea how to read him. But he did know that the look in his eyes right now was not one of infatuation, and it frightened him a bit. I mean, dude's intense. Like, I could see how that would happen. You also just messed up his plan. And he's not a very forgiving person. At least not to those he doesn't care about, and you are not important to him at all. So, yeah, you messed up. Wang Gonggong finally caught up to them. Prince Jing pointed with his chin and moved his fingers. After some thought, Wang Shi ordered someone to prepare a brush and ink. Prince Jing wrote down a few characters and tossed the paper to Chu Yanyu. Chu Yanyu didn't understand what he meant, so Wang Shi said, "His Highness is ordering you to write each of these characters once." Yi Qingquan moved closer to glance at the paper and smiled. Chu Yanyu didn't know this, but those characters were ones that had been on the letter. Chu Yanyu said he was the one they were looking for, so obviously they had to check his handwriting. Chu Yanyu thanked him and copied the characters after some deliberation. To impress Prince Jing, he wrote the characters beautifully in small regular script lettering with one hand, then again in flowing, unrestrained cursive with the other. He was always worrying about how he had never been able to show off his talents. Everyone praised him for his looks, but it was his talent that he was truly proud of. And this was it. I feel a little bad for him. Like, not super bad because he is plotting against our boy. But like kind of that he's like, I want people to see the real me. Not just my face, but what I'm good at. Handwriting. Like, I can get behind that. Like, for real. Unfortunately, Prince Jing only glanced at his talent indifferently. Even the brush he had just set aside got a longer glance. Prince Jing flicked his sleeves in disgust, and Wang Shi immediately said, His Highness says that you're not who he's looking for, and to fuck off. Chu Yanyu screwing himself over becomes a recurring theme. Yeah, it really does. Chu Yanyu was struck dumb. I kind of love that Wang Shi literally said, fuck off. Like, it's not implied. It's, His Highness says you are not the one who he's looking for, and to fuck off. That is amazing. And adds another tick to why I like Wang Shi. And Prince Jing, of course. Yeah, it literally says it right there. Chu Yanyu was struck dumb. The translator of the century. Yeah. He still wanted to say something, but Wang Shi had already ordered the guards to take him away. He heard Wang Shi cursing, since he broke the rules by leaving Xingshu Garden without permission. Both he and the guard he bribed were punished with 200 strokes of a board. The guard was immediately thrown out from the manor, and Chu Yanyu, with all his talent, was dragged back to Qingshu Garden to stew in his own juices. Wang Gonggong said this was Prince Jing's order. If he died outside, they would have to inform the third prince, but if he died in Prince Jing's residence, they could just bury him. Chu Yanyu was more than frightened enough, tears streaming down his face as he lay on his bed covered in injuries. Nobody had ever treated him like this before. How could this man be so cruel? Huang Shi gets so few opportunities to be rude, but he makes the most of them. He really does. He's such a great character. After Xiang Feng was distracted by Chu Yanyu, he didn't want to move anymore. No matter how much Yi Qinghuan tried to get him going, Xiang Feng would just lick his hand quietly. They probably wouldn't be able to find the person they were looking for. Yi Qinghuan smiled apologetically at Prince Jing. He hadn't expected to encounter an obstacle like this. Prince Jing dazedly looked at Xiang Feng for a bit. If Chu Yanyu hadn't appeared, then the original direction Xiang Feng was going in was his room. It would probably be too late if they went now, but Prince Jing still ordered Wang Shi to keep an eye out and get ready to go himself. Tianxi, I'll go with you. Yi Qinghuan wanted to know who sent the letter to. Prince Jing paused, glanced back at Yi Qinghuan, shook his head lightly, and left. Yi Qinghuan was baffled. Beside him, Wang Shi sighed. Ye-shizi, His Highness has his guesses. Please leave it to us to handle it. Yi Qinghuan's eyes widened. Does he have other clues? Who is it? Wang Shi's expression became pained. His Highness has had people investigating for a long time now, but we still haven't even found his name. It seems to be someone's male concubine. Another person's male concubine sent Prince Jing a letter? Yi Qinghuan scratched his head, confused. Was he that charming? Prince Jing stood in front of his room and threw the doors open, but there was nobody inside. He knew that this young man was good at escaping, as well as cleaning up his traces. Occasionally, he might even leave some misleading clues behind, but there would always be some traces of him left. After the young man had escaped last time, Prince Jing secretly ordered Wang Shi to seal the window so that it would be impossible to open. This time, at least, it would have been impossible for the young man to escape through the window. As usual, Prince Jing gave his fish a glance. The fish was swimming casually in his tank. It's like, nothing to see here. La 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 la. Just swimming. Prince Jing decided to look for clues himself this time. He walked around the room once, but he didn't find anything. Since his underclothes and underwear had been taken every time, once strewn randomly on the ground and once mixed in with the clothes he'd already worn, Prince Jing thought that he should start with his clothes, so he opened his closet. He didn't notice that there was a gaze behind him that had followed him since he'd entered the room. In the crystal fish tank, the little carp was practically glued to the tank wall, almost not daring to breathe, as he watched Prince Jing rummaging around his room. Xiang Fang had bought him time by not coming directly back into the room, so Liu had taken off all the clothes he was wearing. Ever since the increase in his inventory size, one slot held clean water and the second slot held other things. After the letter was delivered, a slot became available that could definitely fit a set of clothes, but if he put it in there and Prince Jing wasn't able to find his clothing, he would still suspect that his clothes were stolen. So Liu just folded them up and put them back in the closet. It quickly became quite obvious that he had made the right choice. Prince Jing simply curled his lips up after opening the closet as if he didn't find anything suspicious. But in the next moment, even though he shouldn't have noticed anything, Prince Jing effortlessly pulled out the clothes Liu had been wearing. What? Liu was stupefied. He even forgot to swim. How did he do it? He'd been way more careful than usual. The clothes weren't dirty, and they looked the same as all the other folded clothes in the closet. He didn't put them on top either, so Prince Jing shouldn't have noticed. Liu had no idea that Prince Jing had secretly ordered Wang Shi to embroider numbers on the inner lining of his clothes after the second time his clothes were taken. The clothes that were placed in the closet had to be ordered by number. Since the thief had stolen from him twice, Prince Jing suspected the thief would do it again. That's pretty smart, not gonna lie. As long as he checked the order of the numbers, he would know whether someone had moved them. And someone did. But this was all he found. The thief wasn't trapped in the room like he thought he'd be. He'd gotten away again, and with a method he couldn't figure out. Prince Jing walked over to the tank, watching his fish swim and thinking about the young man's whereabouts. The look of concentration on his face made Liu afraid. He was so handsome. No, it was because Prince Jing was too smart. He was always just about to figure out Liu's identity. Liu couldn't underestimate him. He had like, oh, he's so pretty. And then he's like, wait, no, he's too smart. Not pretty. Liu made up his mind and decided to sell himself again. But Prince Jing was with him all the time, so it was probably hard to impress him anymore. Thanks to Xiang Fang, Liu was reminded that some dogs, Xiang Fang included, like to run in circles and chase their tails. Liu planned to give it a try and chase his own tail. Even if he looked silly, it was fine as long as he could distract Prince Jing. Liu twisted his body, chasing the tip of his tail as he tried to resist the shame, repeating to himself silently, "As long as you don't treat your tail as a tail. As long as you don't treat your tail as a tail." As he chased it around, he was surprised to find that his head could touch his tail. Thanks to his fish nature, Liu couldn't resist playing with it. I accidentally got carried away again. Prince Jing quickly noticed his fish playing with his tail and watched him for a bit without realizing it. This was new to him. He'd never seen a fish playing with its tail before. When the fish stopped, Prince Jing scooped him out and plopped him into a nearby tea bowl, as always, petting him a little. Liu shamelessly wrapped his tail, which had just patted his own head, around Prince Jing's finger. The coldness in Prince Jing's eyes slowly disappeared, and he smiled and shook his head. He said he didn't want it, but he definitely wanted it deep down. Liu saw right through his insincere master and wouldn't let go of his finger. Suddenly, Prince Jing looked surprised, as if he had seen something. He stopped playing with him and pushed the fish's head slightly to the side. Pro isn't beating the furry allegations. Oh, he doesn't even try. Let's be real. Liu was puzzled, but the reason quickly became clear as Prince Jing carefully removed a piece of food stuck between a fin and his body. Liu usually ate fish food, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for him to drop a few pieces of fish food here or there. Since he was Prince Jing's fish, there was no need to worry about getting the water dirty, as the servants changed his water frequently enough. But the piece of food was pink. Fuck! A peach blossom pastry! He ate a couple pieces of peach blossom pastry while he was human. When he turned back into a fish, his mouth was still stuffed full. He'd remembered to wipe his face, but it seemed like he hadn't wiped it clean. How could he have known it'd fall onto his fin after he transformed? And he just can't catch a break. Hello, Esper lady! How are you? Welcome to the stream. We just finished reading about Liu delivering a letter to Ye-shizi and telling him, kind of warning him, hey, the third prince and sixth prince are up to some schemes against you, like watch your back, and then almost got caught by Ye-shizi's dog, Xiang Fang, who was running towards him, but then Chu Yanyu kind of had a surprise appearance, popped up, kind of lured the dog over with a leaf that attracts dogs. They lost the scent for Liu, and he is now freaking out because while he was still transformed, he had some pastries. And he has a crumb on him now, and he's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So that was the quick rundown, and I am doing well. Thank you very much, and I'm glad that you're doing well too. Liu felt guilty, and he was afraid that his identity was once again in danger of being found out. Prince Jing was lost in thought for a bit. He looked around the room and seemed to guess that it was a peach blossom pastry from the table. In spite of himself, the corners of his mouth twitched a few times. Since the little fish could jump around the room, he might have jumped onto the peach pastry blossom pastry. Did he perhaps want to eat one too? Prince Jing wondered. Well, why not? The pastry was vegetarian, so it would probably be all right for the fish to eat. I mean, even if it's not, he eats like pork fat, flour, fish food, doesn't he? So, should be fine. He slowly walked over and brought the plate of peach blossom pastries to the tank, breaking a pastry into pieces and sprinkling it into the clean water. Liu froze for a moment, shaking his body happily. Prince Jing hadn't even considered suspecting him, and instead he was feeding him peach blossom pastries personally. This was the last thing he'd expected. Sob, sob, sob. He felt touched somehow. The texture of the broken peach blossom pastry in the water was still quite nice to a fish. Seeing how happily the fish was eating, Prince Jing picked up a piece for himself. But as he brought it to his mouth, he just so happened to glance over at the remaining pastries from the corner of his eyes. The pastries were arranged as they usually were, but it was obvious that the number was wrong. The imperial family was very particular about things, so even snacks and fruits given to them had to be of an auspicious number. But it was clear that, even counting the one in his hand and the one he fed the fish, this was not an auspicious number of pastries. The peach blossom pastries had been touched. As soon as he realized this, Prince Jing immediately put down the pastry in his hand. He knew the servants would never dare to touch the things in his room, so there was only one person it could have been. Yep, test for poison. Luckily, the pastries weren't poisoned or his fish. Prince Jing's gaze grew heavy as he watched the little fish, with a small piece of peach blossom pastry on his head, impatiently trying to push another piece into his mouth. The little fish's cuteness disrupted his train of thoughts. Prince Jing shook the jade bell and summoned the guards outside his room. All the guards reported the same thing. Before your highness came, only Ye-shizi and Wang Shi Gong entered the room, and definitely nobody else. Ye-shizi visited with his dog, and when Ye-shizi left, the dog stayed in the room for a bit before running out on his own. As to whether or not Xiang Feng had a letter in his mouth when he ran out of the room, the guards weren't sure. Prince Jing rubbed the spot between his brows. None of this made sense. If Yi Qinghuan and Wang Shi were the only ones who entered the room, then what in the world had caused the clothes to be moved and the incorrect numbers of peach blossom pastries? If the thief entered the room without the guards noticing, it would have been impossible for him to get out since the windows were sealed. The thief was still able to come and go as he liked, even though Prince Jing had already made several arrangements. Tianxi, Xiang Feng seems to have recovered. Wang Shi led Yi Qinghuan and his pet dog into the room. Xiang Feng excitedly bounded to the fish tank, wagging his tail at the little carp to tell him he'd completed the task and begging to be praised. Liu swam over quickly and flicked his tail twice. 2. Stupid dog, don't loiter around me. But dogs couldn't understand fish. When Xiang Feng saw the little carp swimming towards him, he tried nosing the fish. He just bumped into the crystal wall every time, but he still kept trying. Yi Qinghuan embarrassedly looked on as his fish continued to act stupidly. I think it's cute. He's like, my friend! I want to play with my friend! This scene reminded Prince Jing of something. When Xiang Feng delivered the letter to Yi Qinghuan, he was mostly wet, and he was still slightly wet even now. But the fish tank in the room wasn't broken, and it was impossible for Xiang Feng to get into the fish tank. So how was he wet? And how did he get wet? Nothing made sense. From the unidentifiable, unlocatable young man who kept appearing in his room, to the clothes and peach blossom pastries that had been moved even though nobody had entered or left the room. Yeah, Xiang Feng is a good dog, bro. He is. He felt like he almost had it. Just a little more, and he could connect everything together and figure out the truth. When Wang Shi finished recounting everything, Yi Qinghuan's eyes widened. He gulped. Tianxi, he said, with a hesitant expression on his face. Your room wouldn't be haunted, would it? Haunted? Prince Jing paused and gave a cold laugh. Where would he get a ghost? Definitely not. At most, just a thief. And even if there were ghosts, he wasn't afraid. Xiang Fang barked excitedly a few times, still wanting to poke the fish with his nose. Prince Jing saw his little fish shrewdly hide amongst the rocks, only leaving his tail out. Prince Jing, who wasn't afraid of ghosts, was calmed even more by the sight of his fish. Things couldn't continue like this. He wasn't afraid of thieves, but he was afraid that the thieves would do something to Xiao Yu, and increasing his defenses hadn't accomplished anything. Prince Jing glanced at Wang Shi. Since increasing his defenses wasn't effective, there was only one other option. Yi Qinghuan thought Prince Jing's fish and his own Xiang Fang were somehow fated, so he wanted to take the fish back to Chang'an Manor and take care of him for a couple days. That way, he could experience the joy of having a fish as well. But before he could bring this up to Prince Jing, he saw Wang Shi take out a crystal bottle that was much larger than an ordinary tea bowl. Well, it looked like a crystal bottle. It was adorned with a gold cap and had a handle to make it easier to carry. Wang Shi opened the crystal bottle without delay, poured in some clean water, and carefully put the little fish, still hiding in the rocks, inside. The little carp swam around in happy curiosity as soon as he was plopped into the crystal bottle. Yi Qinghuan was stunned. "What are you guys doing?" Wang Shi smiled and responded. "His Highness is worried about Master Fish, so he'll bring him wherever he goes. There are holes in the golden cap, so he won't suffocate. It's perfect for Master Fish." Yi Qinghuan was bewildered beyond belief. "It's not enough for you to put him in the large fish tank that the Emperor gifted you? You're going to take him everywhere with you?" To think that he even considered asking Prince Jing for his fish. He was going to bring fish with him everywhere. There was no damn point. Prince Jing cast a derisive glance at Ye-shizi, picked up the crystal bottle, and left. I love Prince Jing. He's got such bad bitch energy, and I love it. Mobile fish tank acquired for sure. Chapter 27. Fish as solitary as snow. Prince Jing deciding to keep him in a crystal bottle and take him everywhere was both lucky and unlucky for Liu. The tyrant master worrying about his fish's safety was obviously a sign of affection. Liu was touched, but if he was spending all his time in a bottle with a lid, it would be impossible for him to turn into a human. By the time he realized this, though, he'd already been carried around for most of the day. The outside world was just so enticing. Liu had never thought he'd be able to spend a day looking around like this as a fish, so he kept his fish eyes open, swimming idly in his bottle and taking in the sights. Everyone greeted him properly when they saw him, satisfying little Liu's modest ego. Okay, sure, they were actually greeting Prince Jing, but it felt good to pretend once in a while. Prince Jing liked to take his fish around with him too, since it was convenient. This fish tank was so heavy that a person had to be specifically assigned to carry it. Tea bowls or regular bowls were too shallow, and the fish could fall out if he wasn't careful. The crystal bottle solved all these problems. He could even bring it into the palace with him. Having experienced the benefits for himself, Prince Jing wanted to keep the fish in the crystal bottle. At first, Liu was pretty happy with this, but a couple of days passed and he realized that Prince Jing had no intentions of putting him back in the fish tank at all. He was actually trapped in here. He was much less pleased with this development. I mean, going from basically a mansion to a one-room apartment, like, constantly, I'd probably get old pretty quick. Trailer. There you go. The bottle allowed him to stay with his master all the time, but he couldn't do any of his missions or turn into a human. He could only watch as opportunities rushed past him, not to mention how uncomfortable it was. A fish trapped in a bottle was as solitary as a flake of snow. He had to get Prince Jing to understand that the bottle might be convenient, but it'd be better if he didn't stay in here too long, for the sake of his mental and physical health. At first, he wanted to take extreme measures to demonstrate his dissatisfaction. Yeah. He thought about trying to scare Prince Jing by flipping upside down his belly. But then he saw Prince Jing order Wang Shi to affix a chain to the bottle's handle and wrap the chain around his hand a few times so that he wouldn't drop and break the crystal bottle. Prince Jing's palm turned red from the strain. The little carp's heart felt a bit sore and tender. Being uncomfortable because he was trapped in a bottle was one thing, but it was far more uncomfortable, heartbreaking even, to see Prince Jing in such pain for his sake. Liu didn't want to scare him anymore. Yep. Prince Jing had never had a pet before, so he had no way of knowing what a fish would want. Putting Liu in a bottle was intended as a kind gesture. All he had to do was somehow let Prince Jing know that he didn't like being in there. It wasn't like he had a grudge against the prince or anything, so he ought to find a better way than making him scared his fish had died. Liu suppressed his curiosity towards the outside world and floated peacefully at the bottom of the bottle. The little carp was usually lively and active, so when he became quiet and peaceful, it was a noticeable change. The moment Prince Jing glanced at Liu, he was immensely confused. His fish was in high spirits just now, so why had he become listless all of a sudden? Worried that the hole at the top might be blocked, Prince Jing checked it not once but twice. There was nothing wrong with the crystal bottle, but his fish was still lethargic and he wasn't perking back up. Prince Jing ordered the servant who'd raised fish before to come over, afraid that the fish was sick again. Every time this servant was called over to diagnose the fish, it was always a false alarm. This time was no different. He held the crystal bottle and looked him over several times, but he didn't see anything wrong with the fish. Prince Jing's fish was fine, as usual. However, the servant had kept many pets before and knew that they didn't like being cooped up. So he mustered his courage to tell Prince Jing in tactful terms that Master Fish wasn't used to being sealed in a bottle all the time. After all, the crystal tank the fish was originally kept in was quite large. Switching him to a smaller vessel meant his swimming range would become narrower, and eventually he wouldn't want to move anymore. The servant felt a little regretful after he spoke. It had been Prince Jing's idea to put his fish in the crystal bottle, but Prince Jing also insisted that he tell the truth, putting the servant in a tough spot. But Prince Jing nodded, understanding what the servant meant. So that's what it was. The crystal bottle was convenient for taking his fish around, but he couldn't let him stay in there all the time or Xiao Yu would become unhappy. He had to consider what the fish wanted too. I love that. He's like, I really love my fish being with me 24/7, 7 days a week. All hours of the day, but I gotta do what's best for my fish. But he couldn't leave his poor fish alone in his room, helpless against thieves. Prince Jing came up with a compromise quickly. He ordered fish tanks and larger tea bowls to be placed around his residence in spots he often frequented. That way, the fish could still accompany him. Once he arrived at his destination, the fish would be taken out of the crystal bottle and placed inside a nearby fish tank or tea bowl. Problem solved. Prince Jing must look like a hypochondriac for his fish constantly thinking his fish is sick. I mean, a little bit. I think they're just like, this is the dude's first fish, or like first pet, and like the only thing he shows active care for. Like, But yeah, I could see some of them being like, huh. No, but I think it's really sweet. I can see where you're coming from, though, Mars Rover. Um, Also love how Prince Jing's thoughts were just Liu's thoughts rephrased. They're so similar. Yeah. Uh, that way the fish could still accompany him. Once he arrived at his destination, the fish would be taken out of the crystal bottle and placed inside a nearby fish tank or tea bowl. Problem solved. Liu only had to pretend to be listless for about 2 hours before he found out he'd achieved his goal. He could spend more of his time in fish tanks now. I remember going a bit overboard for my first pets. I built them a maze and would take an umbrella out for them when we were outside. But you were 7. That's pretty good for 7. Like, I view that as taking great care of your pets. So, good job, Treffle. Prince Jing opened the lid of the bottle and placed the bottle in the fish tank himself. The little carp finally stopped wilting and jumped out of the crystal bottle like an arrow shot from a bow. It was better for fish to stay in fish tanks. Oh, you're welcome. Liu sighed with emotion as he swam comfortably. He looked back at the bottle, which was still in the tank. It wasn't that he didn't like staying with Prince Jing all the time. After all, that was part of his master's kindness. To show his gratitude, Liu danced a special seaweed dance around the crystal bottle, trying his hardest to show Prince Jing what he felt. The bottle was great, and he was happy to follow Prince Jing along and around as long as he wasn't constantly trapped inside it. Honestly, I constantly thought something was wrong with my pet fish, so I get Prince Jing always being concerned. Yeah, I had a lot of betta fish growing up. And sometimes you just did not know what was going on with the fish. So, yeah. Prince Jing, of course, could tell that his fish liked it. He smiled and softly pinched the fish's slippery back. The human and the fish had reached a compromise. Oh, hold on. Liu had spent a good while celebrating this turn of events, but the realization abruptly hit him that even if he got to be in the fish tank instead of the bottle, he was still with Prince Jing 24/7. What was he going to do? He still had no way to transform. Had his once a day transformation skill functionally become a none a day transformation skill? It's like, wait. I solved one problem, but it still didn't solve the problem. Liu's head hurt. Should he let Liu know that the thief, the one Prince Jing thought was going to hurt his fish, was actually him? No. Right now, his plan to save others was more important than the stress that came with not being able to transform. See, this is why I like Liu. He's like, you know what? It was great being able to transform into a human once per day, but like the mission to save Ye-shizi and like help out Prince Jing is more important right now. That's pretty awesome and really thoughtful of him. Liu just wants time to be his introverted self. And eat food. That too. He is quite a glutton. Liu's plan to save Ye-shizi had already been implemented. He really is nice. I agree. Over the last couple of days he spent in the crystal bottle, he'd heard Wang Shi tell Prince Jing that the people of the House of Chang'an had already started to keep an eye on the movements of the second and sixth prince. That's so relatable, and he is definitely a sweetie. Just as Yi Qinghuan had promised. Liu's goal in sending the letter was to alert the House of Chang'an. Without the romance storyline between Prince Jing and the little concubine, he wasn't actually sure if Ye-shizi's betrothal to the Jinju princess would still end up happening. He tried his best to give a shortened version of events in the letter. It didn't matter if this plot didn't end up happening or if the letter was treated as fake, as long as the House of Chang'an didn't fall into the trap the second and sixth princes set for them. Although Prince Jing kept getting in his way, and his identity was constantly in danger of being exposed, Liu thought the rescue mission went pretty smoothly. But there was no notification of completion for the impenetrable defense mission to save Ye-shizi. If there was no notification, then it meant that the mission wasn't complete. Liu's main goal was the saving people part. Finishing the side quest and receiving the rewards was much less important. But when he thought about it, did it mean that it wasn't enough to alert the House of Chang'an by sending them a letter? Was it possible that Ye-shizi might still suffer the same tragic fate as he did in the original book? He'd made up his mind to save others, so he shouldn't half-ass it. But if sending a letter wasn't enough, what else could he do? In the original book, Liu remembered that the trap that doomed Yi Qinghuan was sprung in the palace, just a couple of days after the Dragon Boat Festival. He'd mentioned it in the letter, but he wasn't sure how Yi Qinghuan would react. So he figured the most direct solution would be to stop Ye-shizi from entering the palace during this time period. The farther he was from the trap, the better. But stopping Ye-shizi from entering the palace was even harder than writing and sending him a letter. He might have been able to stop Prince Jing from going, but his fins were too short to reach Yi Qinghuan, who lived in Chang'an Manor. Liu worried so hard that his little fish head hurt. Would he suffer scale loss from thinking too hard? If you thought about it, he thought dizzily, hadn't he already gone bald? That's kind of funny. Technically, fish don't have hair. Well, literally, fish don't have hair. So, yes. Luckily, Prince Jing had the same thoughts he did. Wang Shi had only said that the House of Chang'an had made preparations, but Prince Jing had no idea what Yi Qinghuan was planning to do. So he ordered someone to grab Ye-shizi and bring him over. Wang Shi gave him a good scolding on behalf of Prince Jing. Ye-shizi was a little dejected, just when he'd thought Prince Jing had finally started to care for him. Prince Jing also wanted Yi Qinghuan to avoid the palace for those couple of days. As expected from my master, thought Liu, who was listening excitedly from his fish tank. They were truly kindred spirits. Ye-shizi would listen to Prince Jing, right? But Yi Qinghuan shook his head and refused. Tianxi, I can't just not enter the palace because of what is written in that letter. Yi Qinghuan knew that Prince Jing was only suggesting this because he was worried about him, but he also knew that he couldn't refuse to enter the palace for no reason. For one thing, it was an imperial edict. Keeping his guard up on account of the letter was one thing, but if he deceived the emperor or refused to obey an edict because of a few words on an unproven letter from an anonymous source, his parents, and the entire house of Chang'an for that matter, would never forgive him. I will do as I always had, said Yi Qinghuan with an easy smile. I'd like to see how those people plan to harm me. Seriously, what a stubborn idiot. Prince Jing judged Yi Qinghuan for his recklessness, but after a moment of thought, he gave Wang Shi a meaningful glance. Wang Shi was almost moved to tears. Ye-shizi, don't worry. His Highness has decided to enter the palace with you when the time comes. As long as His Highness is there, you'll be fine. Tianxi, thank you so much. Yi Qinghuan was momentarily touched. Prince Jing was normally so indifferent to others. He wanted to step forward and pat his older cousin on the shoulder, but Prince Jing waved him away, aggravated. I was about to say aggrieved. That's not the right one. Liu felt that this was familiar somehow. The sparkly expression on Ye-shizi's face and the way he looked like he was barely restraining himself from rushing to Prince Jing, even though he'd just been rejected. He thought carefully for a moment. He's going to say he looks like his dog. What do you want to bet? Wasn't he just like Xiang Feng? Xiang Feng always wanted to poke him with his nose. Liu would hide afraid, but even through the crystal, Xiang Feng wouldn't give up on poking him. Yep, called it. He took another look at Ye-shizi. It was like he'd grown a tail just like Xiang Feng's. You could almost see it wagging happily behind him. Dogs really do take after their masters. In the original book, Prince Jing didn't accompany Yi Qinghuan to the palace. Now that Prince Jing was going to go with him, they could take care of each other. Liu felt much more at ease. And since Prince Jing had been taking his fish wherever he went lately, Liu was definitely going to enter the palace too. He'd be able to keep an eye on Ye-shizi in person. These goddamn furries. 10 days later, as the boat festival approached, the king of the country of Jinju came to the imperial city to have an audience with the emperor. The emperor had the Ministry of Rites arrange a banquet with King Jingju in the Taihe Hall. Since it was an imperial banquet, Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan had been invited as well. When they saw the 16-year-old girl next to King Jinju greet the emperor, the two of them looked at each other in silent understanding. So this was the princess of Jinju. It was just as the anonymous informant had said. These people the letter had named, who they thought had nothing to do with them, were really starting to show up. And here comes the plot. Yes, here comes the plot, Truffle, sorry. Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan both tensed up. The emperor had received a letter from King Jingju recently, saying that he wanted his youngest princess to marry into the imperial dynasty. Diplomatic relations between the two countries were good, so the emperor readily agreed. As for who the princess was to marry, the emperor mentally went through a list of men in the imperial city of the appropriate age. The highest-ranking options were obviously his princes, but since Princess Jinju was a foreigner, it wasn't proper for her to become a prince's consort. Really? Feels like it would be very proper, but I don't know. And thank you for saying it's fine, Truffle. King Jinju had mentioned in his letter that the princess did not want to become a concubine either. Okay, that's fair. The emperor thought of Prince Jing. Prince Jing was unmarried and couldn't inherit the throne, so it would be possible for him to marry Princess Jinju. But he immediately dismissed the idea. The emperor has reasons. Since Prince Jing was mute, the princess might not like him. What's more, since he hadn't chosen a crown prince yet, that meant Prince Jing held the de facto highest status as the Dai Prince. If he let Prince Jing marry a foreigner, then how would he arrange the other princes' marriages? The emperor decided to not choose from the princes and turned his sights towards other sons of noble families that matched Princess Jinju. It wasn't long at all before Ye-shizi from the house of Chang'an came to his attention. There in Taihe Hall, the emperor smiled and said, Ye-shizi, I'm putting the safety of King Jinju and the princess in the imperial city and in your hands. Yi Qinghuan felt his blood run cold. He gritted his teeth and knelt to accept the edict. The emperor has reasons, plus he is super gay for his fish. That he is. Well, okay, maybe not yet, because he still thinks he's just a fish, albeit a super cool fish. But give it time. He's kind of super gay, like a little bit gay for his fish person Sona. So there is that. He drew that picture very nicely. Let's be real. Once he sat down at the banquet, Prince Jing took out the crystal bottle from his sleeve. The etiquette at an imperial banquet was complicated, and he wasn't sure if his little fish had been stuck for too long. He hadn't wanted to bring his fish into the palace at first, but the little carp swam into the crystal bottle and refused to come out, staring right at him with eyes like shining black jade. Prince Jing smiled. He had no choice but to shove the crystal bottle with the fish inside into his sleeve. My thing about the sleeves is like, okay, if you're fitting a whole fish tank in the sleeve, why can't you also fit like paper and like ink in the sleeve? Like I know Wang Shi carries the paper and the ink, but like you'd think like you're the one who needs it. Couldn't you just stack like a little notepad, a little book in your sleeve just in case? Would fix some problem sometime. Just saying. When he took the crystal bottle out, everyone around him was shocked. Did Prince Jing take a fish with him everywhere he went? Most of them had seen the large crystal tank Prince Jing had moved out with, and for a while they were rendered speechless. The second prince, who was sitting among the other princes, chatting and laughing happily with others while looking very crown princely, turned pale the moment he laid eyes on this fish. "Second prince, we meet once more." Liu flapped his tail casually at Mu Tianshao. He was going to ruin the second prince's plans again. He's like, "Hello again, my friend. I am here to ruin your night." All right. Chapter 28. Can't Eat the Fish. When Prince Jing took out the crystal bottle, Wang Shi, not far behind him, stepped forward and placed a small fish tank carved from coral on his table. Alright, so I could understand coral being in the fish tank, but a fish tank carved from coral would have a lot of holes. So I'm going to think it's just like maybe the inside has some coral decoration. Maybe. Because I don't know how else that would work. Fishmemesis. There you go. Liu, I'm gonna ruin this whole guy's career. I mean, he does, so you're not wrong. Maybe it's the color coral. I could see that. Okay. Clear water had already been prepared in advance, so Prince Jing rolled up his sleeves and put the fish into the water himself, watching him swim about freely for a bit. Prince Jing glanced at Wang Shi, wanting to feed the fish. Wang Shi took out a bamboo box of fish food and handed it to Prince Jing. He then turned around and glanced at the servants who'd accompanied him. One by one, they brought over the pastries that they'd carried over from Prince Jing's residence and placed them neatly in front of the fish tank. Prince Jing took 2 pieces of fish food and dropped them into the tank. Then he took a peach blossom pastry and split it in half, crushing 1 half for his little fish and eating the remaining half as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. Dude, I do that with my dog all the time when I'm eating, like, be it like carrots, chicken, bread, sometimes other veggies, but he's kind of picky. I'll just like bite through half a carrot, give him the half, and he'll just be standing there staring at me like, he begs so much, and it's totally my fault. But he's cute, so. Oh well. Thank you very much, Truffle. With nothing to do but carefully watch Prince Jing feed his fish, the onlookers wondered if they were going blind or perhaps mad. Was this the real Prince Jing? Yeah, because everyone's like, he's so cold and aloof. He's like, nope, happily feeding my fish. After Prince Jing placed him in the fish tank, Liu docilely rubbed himself against Prince Jing's fingers. The fish food and peach blossom pastry floated towards the bottom. The little carp was getting tired of the same old thing lately. He guzzled the peach pastry first, and when he was half full, he started on the fish food. Seeing how happily the little fish was eating, Prince Jing took another type of dessert, a yundan pastry, and broke it into pieces to feed him. Liu was happy to try new food, so he gave it a taste. The new pastry tasted like peppermint, with a cooling sensation that rushed straight to his head. As a human, he would have liked it, but he couldn't stand it as a fish. Feeding Pookie. Liu took a bite and tossed it away, then happily went back to the peach blossom pastry. Prince Jing watched. It was clear that his fish didn't like the yindan pastry. There's no need to prepare this pastry anymore, he said. Well, wrote, I'm guessing. Wang Gonggong, known for understanding Prince Jing so well he might as well be a mind reader, immediately ordered the servants to note that down. Note that down! Note that down! The servants nodded repeatedly. The people sitting around Prince Jing were astounded. Yi Qinghuan was the only one who didn't find it weird. He's used to it. He's like, yep, I believe it. As music played around them, the second prince, Mu Tianxiao, stood. The Ministry of Rites had arranged for the oldest prince, the second prince, to lead the others in toasting King Jinzhu at the imperial banquet. Mu Tianxiao was a natural conversationalist and was graceful and dignified, so his conversation with King Jinzhu was quite joyous. King Jinzhu praised Mu Tianxiao and drank 3 cups in a row. The emperor was satisfied with Mu Tianxiao's attitude. When King Jinzhu praised the second prince, the emperor looked good too. Being capable and proper was another of the second prince's strong points. Mu Tianxiao could tell that the emperor was in a good mood, and he gazed at the smaller figure beside King Jinzhu with a smile. He'd suffered several setbacks in succession recently, and the emperor wasn't really pleased with him. But the spy he'd placed in Xianqing Palace recently sent him a message that King Jinzhu planned to marry his princess off during the visit. Xianqing. Yeah. Mu Tianxiao had put in quite a lot of effort to restore the relationship between himself and Prince Jing, but Prince Jing ignored every one of his attempts. Mu Tianxiao wanted to win over the House of Chang'an, but Prince Jing and the House of Chang'an were clearly on the same side. Of course they are. That's his, blood family from his mom's side. Mu Tianxiao knew he had no chance of winning over Prince Jing, and he had to find support elsewhere. However, the emperor was always keeping an eye on his sons, so he couldn't be too obvious about what he was doing. That was when the marriage presented itself at his doorstep. Mu Tianxiao had it all figured out. Jinzhu was a small bordering country, but they had money and troops, so if he married the princess of Jinzhu, her kingdom wouldn't support the other princes. At least not over him. If this panned out, his position would be hard to shake even if the emperor ended up taking issue with him. As for the princess of Jinzhu, just becoming his side consort would be a huge honor for him. Thinks highly of himself, does he? He could even promise her that she could become a noble consort once he ascended the throne. That would be more than enough for the king of Jinzhu. Originally, he'd been thinking that even if the little princess was ugly, he'd accept her in exchange for Jinzhu's support. But when he got a look at her during the imperial banquet, he found she was stunningly beautiful. She had a different kind of beauty than the women of his own country. Wu Tianxiao was more willing than ever to go through with his plan. Princess, Mu Tianxiao gestured for someone to bring a plate of dessert and softly said, "This is our famous butterfly pastry. Please have a taste." It sounds awesome. I'd love to have a taste. As its name suggested, butterfly pastries were made in the shape of a butterfly with its wings spread out, and the pastries came in pairs, symbolizing a century-long good marriage. Wu Tianxiao wanted to make a move first, to show others that the princess of Jinju was going to be his, and ensure that any other suitors backed off. The emperor noticed that the second prince seemed to have fallen in love with the foreign princess. He had wanted the Duke of Cheng'en's son and the Princess of Jinju to marry, but judging by Yi Qinghuan's solemn expression on receiving the decree, he wasn't very interested in the princess. The emperor wasn't going to make them marry right away, but he'd been thinking he'd test the waters again with Yi Qinghuan and discuss the matter with the House of Cheng'en too. But then the second prince popped up all of a sudden. The emperor was a little irritated, but he decided not to blame the second prince. It wasn't as if his son could read his mind, after all. He'd already rejected the idea of marrying the princess to one of his princes. If the second prince had such intentions, he wouldn't get very far unless the princess of Jinju asked to be a side consort herself. That, he supposed, could be a possibility. If the second prince wanted this marriage, then he needed to have a few tricks up his sleeve. The emperor wanted to see how Mu Tianxiao would handle this, so he didn't try to stop him. King Jinju ordered the butterfly pastry to be served to the princess, but the little princess just smiled and didn't try to reach for the pastry. Mu Tianxiao thought that the princess didn't know what the butterfly meant and was just about to take the opportunity to show off a little when he noticed that the princess wasn't looking at him at all. She was staring at something in the distance with that pretty face of hers. What? Feeling humiliated, Mu Tianxiao didn't rush to speak again. His eyes couldn't help but follow the princess's gaze, only to see Prince Jing feeding his fish from the table full of desserts as the fish lay on the edge of the fish tank, wagging its tail. It's like, always this damn fish! Urgh! So, the princess was looking at the fish that brought disaster whenever the second prince saw him. Every time the fish flapped its tail, the princess smiled. She has good taste. Wu Tianxiao secretly hated this fish. He didn't want to be rude during the imperial banquet, so when he saw that Prince Jing had brought that wretched thing, he tried to pretend it didn't exist. But somehow this fish of misfortune had entered his line of sight again. The princess of Jinju smiled so hard she blushed, and whispered to King Jinju occasionally. The second prince could only hear the word fish spoken softly and nothing else, but that was enough for him. He was certain that the stupid fish had stolen his stage again. The princess of Jinju had no taste. How could a fish raised by a mute prince compare with him, a future crown prince? She has fantastic taste. Mu Tianxiao glanced at the emperor. The emperor had also noticed Prince Jing feeding his fish due to the commotion around him, but instead of berating him, the emperor smiled as if he was happy to see Prince Jing busying himself with his pet. He probably is. He was very excited when Prince Jing first showed him the fish, so I could see why he would still be excited now. Mu Tianxiao felt the vine of jealousy taking root within his heart. Here's the cute picture. He's just like, do, feeding my fish. And the princess is like, oh, it's so cute. And the second prince is like, this damn fish. And the orderly in the back is like, what is going on in the background? Yeah, he's just like, yum, you eating the pastries. Yeah, it's here. I'm not sure how close. There he is. Like, ah, Prince Jing with his little smile. So cute. They really are sweet. He was the respected second prince and the future crown prince, but he wasn't able to do anything about this fish. Emperor proud father noises. Pretty much. Mu Tianxiao sat back, frustrated, his expression turning dark. Even though he was silent for a while, nobody paid him any attention. Thus, the second prince gave a couple of orders to the servant in charge of his food. The servant went to carry out his order and came back after a while, holding a bowl in his hand that contained a little soup. The servant knelt down, trembling. Your Highness, the kitchen didn't prepare carp soup today. They can start making it now, but it will take quite some time. For now, I brought white jade meatball soup in case the wait is too long. To be fair, that scene would steal the show in any time period. Fair. Fair. Would your Highness please at least have some? The servant spoke quietly, but there was no getting around the people nearby who were determined to pay attention to the second prince. Mu Tianming was seated close to the second prince, and he called out, "A second brother, are the dishes at the banquet not to your liking? Why do you want to drink carp soup all of a sudden?" Mu Tianming deliberately raised his voice as he said the word carp. Most people, after staring in surprise at the second prince, looked in Prince Jing's direction afterwards, because Prince Jing was the only one with a carp right now. Liu in his fish tank lifted his head and cocked it embarrassingly. I'm so shy. Does the second prince want to make me into soup? But I'm still nibbling on the food my master has given me. Wu Tianxiao was silent. He could feel Prince Jing's ice-cold eyes look over, and for some reason he felt panicked. But he didn't even do anything! He gritted his teeth. Third brother, you're overthinking it. I just wanted to drink some soup because I suddenly became thirsty. His heart felt like it was twisting in on itself. Why was everyone berating him just for wanting to drink some fish soup? Prince Jing shot a cold look at Mu Tianxiao. Wang Shi was silent as he stood beside him, but he had already started cursing Mu Tianxiao in his heart on Prince Jing's behalf. Prince Jing could see right through him. Right? The emperor knit his brows. Wanting to drink fish soup wasn't a problem, but since Prince Jing was the only one who'd brought a fish, the target of that specific request was rather obvious. Perhaps the second prince just hadn't anticipated that the third prince would expose his little act of anger. The emperor had an extremely good impression of the little carp. The way Prince Jing cared for his pet made the emperor fond of it too. He thought the second prince was being a little too emotional. The Princess of Jinju had been staring at Prince Jing's fish just now, and after watching it all this time, she had also come to like the fish. Good taste! When she realized that the second prince wanted to drink fish soup, she immediately stood up and angrily said, Your Highness, how could you drink fish soup in front of such a cute fish? I didn't think you were that type of person. The second prince always backing himself into a corner. To be honest, when the second prince had handed her the butterfly pastry, the princess looked young, but she could tell that the second prince was trying to use her and Jinju. She was also well aware that she'd be relegated to the position of a side consort if she married him. She wasn't stupid. A position like that, where she could be easily thrown away, wasn't worth the country of Jinju's wholehearted support. What's more, there was no guarantee that the second prince could really ascend the throne, or when that would actually happen. A very smart princess. Jinju didn't necessarily want to get involved in the conflict between princes. So, she had ignored the second prince, and when she learned that he wanted to secretly drink fish soup, the bold little princess jumped out to give his ego a couple of stomps, even though no one else was willing to speak up. And at the same time, she used this opportunity to hint to the emperor that she wasn't willing to enter a marriage with the second prince. Don't even think about it. Princess, you misunderstood. That's not what happened. Mu Tianxiao was speechless. His heart filled with anger, and he didn't know how to explain himself anymore. He didn't actually want to drink fish soup in front of the fish. He wanted to butcher the fish and make it into soup instead. Was he supposed to tell her that? It was clear to the emperor that the Princess of Jinju didn't have any intentions towards the second prince. So it would be better if the second prince refrained from using such dishonorable means. To put it nicely, he was trying to get into the princess's good graces, but to put it bluntly, he had failed to attract her. Earlier, the emperor had thought the second prince was earning him respect, but now he felt like the second prince's actions had slapped him in the face. Yi Qinghuan was definitely more suitable. The emperor looked over at Ye-shizi, who was sitting quietly a short distance from Prince Jing, and silently gave him a stamp of approval for being so mature and steady. He decided to keep the Duke of Cheng'an and Ye-shizi after the banquet to speak with them alone. The second prince soon learned that the emperor planned to marry the princess to the Duke of Cheng'an's son, and was already meeting with the Duke of Cheng'an to discuss it. So, they were all in cahoots. Meanwhile, he was immensely humiliated at the imperial banquet and didn't gain anything from it. The princess rejected him, the Duke of Cheng'an refused to help him, and Prince Jing and his fish were laughing at him. The second prince had endured too much for too long. It was time to make a move. Okay, so this was originally where I planned to end it tonight, but let me see. How long is the next chapter? Let me see. What do you think? One more chapter? Sounds good. All right, we can do one more chapter. A courageous, ambitious fish. An expressionless Yi Qinghuan set down a stack of secret reports in front of Prince Jing. Ye-shizi was normally very lively, and it was rare for him to look so solemn. When he put the reports down, Liu stopped swimming around his fish tank as well, afraid of missing a single piece of information. The emperor had Yi Qinghuan and his father, the Duke of Cheng'an, stay behind after the banquet. Yi Qinghuan had acted guarded and restrained at the banquet, thinking he wouldn't stand out, but the emperor still chose him to marry the princess of Jinju. Those unbelievable words on the letter were slowly becoming reality. The emperor did ask for the Duke of Cheng'an's opinion, but a marriage like this was a national affair, and Yi Qinghuan knew well that his father was loyal to the emperor and would not disagree. And thus, his marriage was decided upon. But it wasn't life after marriage Yi Qinghuan was worried about. The letter stated that the second prince would frame him for killing the princess of Jinju. Clearly, she was also a victim. Yi Qinghuan was determined to thwart the second prince's plans. After the second prince was dealt with, it would be the princess's decision whether or not she still wanted to go through with the marriage. That's pretty nice of him. He'd kept an eye on the second prince and sixth prince ever since he'd received the letter. Since Ye-shizi's marriage was established, there'd been many more people coming in and out of Mu Tianxiao's manor. The second prince was definitely plotting something. With Prince Jing occasionally reminding him to be skeptical, Yi Qinghuan also didn't completely believe what was written in the letter. The more its contents came true, the more cautious he needed to be. His people soon uncovered the second prince's plot. On the day Yi Qinghuan and the princess were to enter the palace and thank the emperor, The second prince planned to lure the princess of Jinju to Yanyu Pavilion and kill her there. He would then lure Yi Qinghuan there too to take the blame. As long as Yi Qinghuan stepped into Yanyu Pavilion, he would find his fiance's corpse with his own sword in her chest. The second prince planned to have someone steal it from Chang'an Manor beforehand, so he could plant it as proof that Ye-shizi had been the one to kill her. That's a bit devious. The stage thus set, the second prince would lead a group of imperial guards to Yanyu Pavilion and capture Ye-shizi red-handed. In the face of such concrete evidence, there was nothing Yi Qinghuan could say to save himself. The second prince intended to frame Yi Qinghuan for sabotaging the marriage and killing the princess. It matched what most of the mysterious informant had written, but there were some parts of the letter that didn't match. For example, the letter had warned them that the sixth prince had some part in this as well, and asked Ye-shizi to not trust the sixth prince. Yi Qinghuan was only able to find out information about the second prince. The sixth prince hadn't made any moves, compared to the second prince, who was used to putting on a mask around others, or the third prince, who jumped at any opportunity to compete with the second prince. The sixth prince was simply transparent. Even at an important event like the imperial banquet, he didn't even try to scoot closer to the emperor. Yi Qinghuan wondered if the letter had been written incorrectly. After all, there were so many incorrect characters, it was a miracle that he'd had the patience to finish reading it. Ouch. But since the sixth prince hadn't done as the letter said he would, there's no way to tell who the sixth prince was going to harm. Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan discussed it several times over, but in the end, they decided they should still have someone keep an eye on the sixth prince. They also found out that the second prince had secretly prepared arsenic. It was clear that he meant to poison someone, but it was unclear who. At the very least, it couldn't be the princess of Jinju, because she had to die by Ye-shizi's sword so he could be framed. Poisoning would only complicate matters. Yi Qinghuan made the necessary preparations on his end, and the imperial decree was issued shortly during the Dragon Boat Festival. Very soon, he would have to enter the palace to thank the emperor for his engagement. Prince Jing, meanwhile, had agreed to enter the palace with Ye-shizi. On the day Ye-shizi was due to thank the emperor, Prince Jing changed into a lighter outfit, put on a black guan, and casually threw on a royal blue outer robe made of cotton with a silver trim. Ordinary people weren't allowed to carry swords into the palace. But since Prince Jing was a prince, not only did he have a sword hanging from his waist, he also calmly shoved a dagger into his cloud-patterned boots, as if he was going to fight the second prince to the death. He's prepared. You always want to have a hidden dagger somewhere, right? Liu swam around anxiously in his crystal fish tank. He wanted to go too. Since Prince Jing never got together with the little concubine, the House of Chang'an had no reason to help the third prince. He didn't know whether the second or sixth prince would still follow the plot in the book. Besides, what if there were other details he'd missed when he last read it? He couldn't for the life of him remember the name of the imperial princess that the sixth prince killed in the book. It was only mentioned in a single sentence, so she couldn't even be considered cannon fodder. That's sad. Thus, all he could do was remind Yi Qinghuan to keep an eye out for the sixth prince and trust that Ye-shizi and Prince Jing would work together. If the sixth prince was to make a move, he was certain that they could stop it. All he wanted was to stay by Prince Jing and receive first-hand information, to prevent the worst-case scenario. He assumed Prince Jing would take him, but the crystal bottle was never brought out. That meant he wouldn't be taken along. It would be impossible for him to enter the palace on his own if Prince Jing didn't take him. Liu flapped his tail and jumped into a tea bowl from the crystal fish tank. After a few consecutive jumps, he planned to jump onto the crystal bottle that was currently lying horizontally on the table. But since the bottle was smooth, the wet little carp slipped off the bottle before he could stabilize himself, and almost landed on the table head first. Ouch. Prince Jing, with his sharp eyes and quick reflexes, scooped him up and put him into the petal-shaped tea bowl nearby. Not gonna lie, I would totally watch a detective series with these three. I would too, honestly. It'd be a lot of fun. Prince Jing, with his sharp eyes and quick reflexes, scooped him up and put him into the petal-shaped tea bowl nearby. Sob, 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 Liu wailed internally. Has Prince Jing made up his mind about not taking me since he's not putting me in the bottle? It would be hilarious. Liu jumped again. This time, he bravely leaped onto Prince Jing's shoulder and used his fins to grab tightly onto his clothing. He felt like he turned into a majestic eagle, shielding his master from the wind and rain from his position on his shoulder. In reality, his wet fins soon made Prince Jing's shoulder damp. Liu started thumping on Prince Jing's shoulder. That's not what I wanted to do. Prince Jing wiped away the water on his face and picked his fish up. Liu knew that Prince Jing wasn't happy. He'd been the prince's pet for so long, and he rarely lifted Liu by his head. Ouch! He would only do this when there was something wrong. Was his master angry? Knowing he'd made a mistake, the little carp tried to sweetly wrap around Prince Jing's finger, but since he was held up by his head, his tail couldn't quite reach that far, and only rubbed against Prince Jing's palm instead. Prince Jing thought that the little fish just wanted to come out and play. Perhaps, since he'd taken Liu everywhere with him lately, the fish assumed that he could play every day. But not tonight. It was very likely he and Yi Qinghuan might have to fight against the second prince. Never mind whether or not it was convenient, the fish would probably be uncomfortable. Prince Jing had originally planned to leave him with Wang Shi, but his fish even jumped onto his shoulder after failing to get into the crystal bottle. Humph. It seemed like he was spoiled too much and had become too bold. Prince Jing silently criticized the fish, but now that he thought about it, if he left his fish in the residence, he might become victim to the thief again. Either way, going to the palace would result in getting his people in the palace involved, and he would definitely go to Jingtai Hall. Why didn't he just take his fish to Jingtai Hall for a few hours and ask Wang Shi to come along? Prince Jing let out a silent sigh of resignation as he placed the fish carefully into the crystal bottle, then changed his outer robes. Liu was thrilled. He was going to enter the palace even though he had done something wrong. My plan worked! Prince Jing brought his fish along and met Yi Qinghuan at the palace gate. Just as Prince Jing was holding on to the crystal bottle, Yi Qinghuan was holding Xiang Fei's leash. Yi Qinghuan smiled. I knew you'd bring your fish. I brought Xiang Fei too, so they can keep each other company while we're attending to business. No way! Liu was floored. He had business to attend to as well. He wasn't here to keep a dog company. No sooner had Yi Qinghuan finished speaking, Xiang Fei excitedly reached his head over and poked the crystal bottle with his nose. The crystal bottle was larger than the tea bowls, but it still felt like Xiang Fei could hold the entire thing in his mouth if he opened it wide enough. The crystal bottle was narrow and thin, so when Xiang Fei licked the bottle, Liu felt like the dog's teeth were suddenly much closer to him too. Even though he already was very familiar with Xiang Fei, it still made Liu a little nervous. Prince Jing handed Wang Shi the crystal bottle. Wang Shi had already brought over the white and blue porcelain fish tank they'd used at Jingtai Hall before, and he put the little fish inside. Liu breathed a sigh of relief, finally feeling safe. Before the day they entered the palace, Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan had agreed to put the Princess of Jingju's safety first, in case the second prince really did end up harming her. But since neither of them were close with her, it would be inconvenient to send someone directly to her. Inspired by the letter Yi Qinghuan received, Prince Jing decided to write an anonymous letter to the Princess of Jinju, stating that someone was plotting against her. Prince Jing had come up with the idea, and Yi Qinghuan was the one who delivered it. Since Ye-shizi oversaw the king and princess of Jinju's safety, no one would suspect a thing if he delivered them a letter. It was rumored that the king of Jinju was furious when he received the letter and had summoned his trusted advisors to examine it for an entire night to try to determine the intent of the writer. For the safety of his daughter, the king ordered high-ranking guards to accompany her everywhere at all times, even when she entered the palace to give thanks to the emperor. The emperor didn't know his reasons. He just thought the king was being too protective since the palace was quite safe. But it was a trivial matter, and he didn't want to limit the king of Jinju over this. So, the princess of Jinju was surrounded by 16 high-ranking guards at every turn. And these were only the visible ones. That's impressive. There were probably many more hidden around her. The second prince's plan would not succeed as long as the princess was safe. A few days ago, the second prince's people had snuck into Cheng'en's manor under Yi Qinghuan's secret watchful eye. To give the second prince a nice present, Yi Qinghuan had picked a special sword and let them steal it, so the second prince would think everything was going according to plan. After settling their pets down, Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan started to wait. Soon, an aide came to report that a stranger of unknown origin had tried to get close to the princess of Jinju, but her guards spotted the person and beat him up quite badly. Prince Jing and Yi Qinghuan exchanged a look. They both guessed that the second prince must have sent that person to lure the princess of Jinju over. "We should go," Yi Qinghuan said softly. It was time to head to Yanyu Pavilion and say hello to the second prince. Prince Jing nodded at Wang Shi, patted the little carp on the head, and headed into the night with Yi Qinghuan and his men. Liu watched Prince Jing leave. He stopped in his fish tank, quietly analyzing the situation. Why hadn't the sixth prince made a move yet? Most likely because Prince Jing wasn't with Chu Yanyu yet, and the third and sixth princes had not yet won the support of the House of Cheng'en. There was no need for them to take a risk now. The current situation was just the second prince's one-man show. But Liu didn't really understand why the second prince persisted with this plan even though the sixth prince had already retreated. Perhaps narrow-minded and short-sighted people always made the same decisions. The only thing Liu could do now was wait for information in Jingtai Hall. Just then, he heard a light click. Xiang Fang, who had seemed to be sleeping near the fish tank, raised his head, alert. It wasn't Wang Shi. Liu was familiar with Wang Shi's footsteps, and the sound had come from the window. Wang Shi was in Jingtai Hall, and he definitely wouldn't climb through the window. Uh-oh. Illuminated by the soft glow of a candle, a black shadow sprang into the room through the window. Who was it? Liu immediately thought of the female assassin who had tried to kill Prince Jing, and his fishy body started to tremble. Xiang Fang, as expected of a dog who wanted to protect his fish friend, immediately started barking wild. That's adorable. That right there is cute. The black figure loitered in front of the table for a bit, and was just about to walk over when Xiang Fang leapt towards the person and bit him on the hand, causing him immense pain. "What's happening?" Wang Shi's voice rang out, and the surrounding guards were alerted as well. As the situation put him at a disadvantage, the dark figure left the same way he came, holding his injured hand all the way. Wang Shi was very frustrated that he hadn't caught the man, but thankfully both fish and dog were fine. Wang Shi, relieved, brought a box of fish food from the table to feed Master Fish and Master Dog. "Go, doggo, go!" That's right. Xiang Fang's tail wagged happily. Wang Shi put the fish food into a jade plate, and Xiang Fang was just about to eat when something occurred to Liu. He thought of how the black figure had rummaged around on the table for a bit, and a peculiar feeling rose in his chest. Liu immediately flapped his tail and whacked a blue stone, one of the ones he used to play with, towards the jade plate. Since he had used excessive force, the stone knocked the plate over and the fish food ended up on the ground. Wang Shi was surprised. The little carp rarely lost his temper like this. Master Fish, what's wrong? Master Dog, he's been promoted. Yep. Wang Shi's gaze landed on the fallen fish food, and he suddenly seemed to think of something. Could it be that? Wang Shi quickly took out a silver needle from the inside of his robes. Nobody would think to test for poison in pet food. Wang Shi hoped he was just overthinking, but he feared the worst. The silver needle poked into the fish food, and when he pulled it out for a short while later, the tip was already black. Liu's heart skipped a beat. The fish food was really poisoned. Sob, 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 I was almost poisoned. How scary. Since he was basically the only one who ate that food, Liu was certain that someone wanted to harm him. Soon enough, Wang Shi reached the same conclusion. With Prince Jing away, Wang Gonggong took charge and ordered someone to put Master Fish and Xiang Fang in a room without windows. He personally took up watch outside the room, determined to not let anyone slip by again. And that is where we're going to end it tonight. What a way to end it, huh? Almost getting poisoned by a mysterious person in black. Dun dun dun. Prince Jing's gonna be pissed when he comes back. It's like, I left you alone for... Prince Jing's gonna be pissed when he comes back. It's like, I left you alone for one day, and you almost die. You're never leaving my side again. Oh my goodness. But yeah, this was a fun night tonight. We got through... Yeah, he's gonna be so mad indeed. He's not going to be let out of the bottle for like 2 weeks. Half an evening, really. Yeah. No, I mean, we saw Chu Yanyu had a surprise guest appearance. We got our letter delivered, and we are in the middle of our plot against Yi Qinghuan. So I'm interested for this coming Tuesday's reading, where I think we'll probably see the actual plot going down, like the results of it. So I'm excited for that. But tonight was fun. We had some pretty funny moments too, and I really enjoyed it. You're welcome, Truffle. Thank you for being here. I really enjoy doing these. They're a lot of fun, and I love that I get to share these books with everyone, because I really enjoy them. And I enjoy reading ones that I haven't read before. Fic recommendations. There's this really good, since we're liking the slightly different transmigration stories, there's this really good, really long one that's a Lu Qingge and Shen Yuan fic. It's like Master of the Mountain, and basically Shen Yuan gets transmigrated like unsuccessfully into Shen Qingchu, and so it kind of goes wrong, so they like put him in a different body, and he just finds this mountain, and you'll have to figure out the rest of it, but it's really, really, really... I did add the titles to my last post. It's its own post because it got really long. Maybe I'll start doing this, like fic recommendations. You're welcome, Mars Rover. Thank you for being here. I'll try to remember what the name is, but it is fantastic. And I'll find that and I'll post that in the stream, in the posts. So yeah, you're welcome, Peacock Pages. Maybe I'll start doing that, like just having some of my favorite picks. I also have some good Modazushi ones. So yeah. Thank you for everyone that was here. Oh, good. Definitely do so, Truffle. There's some of my favorites in there. I'll do maybe like one or two. Yeah, people can add other recommendations in the comments. I'd love that. That would be great. But yeah, anyone who's watching later, I hope you enjoyed too and have fun. And if you want to add some recommendations in the post, feel free. Or community. I don't know if I have a community tab, but if I do, either post or community. I'll probably see community or posts first. But yeah, have a good night, everybody. See you Tuesday, same time, 8 Central Standard Time. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.